Get ready, Staten Island.
The Ferry Hawks are back at SIUH Community Park July 7th to the 12th for a 6-game series against the High Point Rockers. Tonight, first pitch is at 6:30. It's Thirsty Thursday with $5 Bud and Bud Light drafts. Friday, July 10th, first pitch is at 7 p.m. May the Force be with you on Star Wars Night with post-game kids glow around the bases with special lightsaber training packs.
Visit ferryhawks.com now to lock in your seats.
Sid and Friends in the morning.
Entertaining and informative.
On the Red Apple Podcast Network.
In the case of Sid, Sid is an entertainer first and foremost, but he's developed such a massive audience that he's been able to become this political power broker, the likes of which I don't think anyone ever anticipated. And because there's not really a morning show, at least on AM, that has his kind of listenership and his kind of depth, he has the kind of influence politically that I don't even know if Bob Grant had.
We begin with the sudden passing of Senator Lindsey Graham. He had just returned from a trip to Ukraine in what would have been his final work week in U.S. foreign policy.
Senator Lindsey Graham was a towering figure in South Carolina politics. First elected to the Senate in 2002, he remained a centerpiece for the Palmetto State, as well as a column for the Republican Party over the past 2 decades.
Long time no see.
In one of his last acts as senator, Graham, known as a foreign policy hawk, met with Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky in Kyiv on Friday. Hours after returning to Washington, first responders were called to his home.
EMS 6 response to 87 Medic 7 with cardiac arrest.
CBS News obtained photos showing a person being taken from Graham's Capitol Hill home Saturday night. Graham's office announced his death in a statement on social media, adding his passing comes after battling a brief and sudden illness. Senator Graham's family appreciates prayers at this time and asks for privacy during this incredibly difficult period. Graham attended the University of South Carolina for both undergrad and law school. After years as an attorney, he served a term in the South Carolina House of Representatives before being elected to the U.S. House, representing South Carolina's 3rd District. His fellow South Carolina Senator Tim Scott referred to him as a mentor.
What we'll need is a champion who steps up to the plate, not for politics, but for serving our country. That is who Lindsey was.
An outpouring of support in his passing Sunday from former presidents to politicians across the aisle.
We're all trying to wrap our heads around this giant loss. He was one of those figures that was really larger than life.
There was nobody like him. He loved being a politician.
The longtime South Carolina senator was scheduled to be on Meet the Press today. One of his greatest allies, President Trump, stepped in his place and spoke on Graham's legacy. Graham ran for president in 2016, but lost the Republican nomination to then candidate Trump.
I thought Lindsey was going to be living forever. I said, Lindsey, you're going to live forever.
Lindsey Graham was 71 years old.
Senator Graham's death comes less than 4 months before he was set to appear on the ballot there in South Carolina. Here's what's next. South Carolina Governor Henry McMaster will appoint a replacement to finish the rest of Graham's term through this year. GOP candidates can begin filing July 21st. They'll have a week to enter the race. Then a special Republican primary will be held on August 11th.
I got a call last night sometime at, the early evening, maybe in the 7s. And he called and he said, we're all set for the Save America Act. He was pushing the Save America Act like crazy. He got back, said he just landed from Ukraine. I said, that's a long trip to make. He said, he sounded a little tired, but perfect, but a little bit tired. Had a right to be. And he was a worker. He was really a worker. But he sounded great, actually. But he actually said he was tired.
He was such an American patriot. He was unabashedly for America, and he was unabashedly against the enemies of America. And he spoke what he thought. He had a way with him. He had this charming Southern drawl, and you knew something was coming when he would say, well, I'm just a poor old Southern boy. And then he's coming in with the most penetrating insight that few people can deny and that everybody recognizes is the truth. He had a way with him. He was a wonderful, wonderful friend, a great American patriot, and a great champion of the Israel-American alliance, and I'll miss him personally a lot. I really, really thought the world of him. And I think the world has lost a great human being. America has lost a great senator, and we have lost a great friend.
We've reached agreement with the White House on a version of the Russian sanctions bill that they will support. it means it's going to become law. So when I get back to Washington, I'm going to go with Senator Blumenthal to the Republican and Democratic leader to see if we can find time to move this Russian sanctions package that would give tools to President Trump to help end this war. There are some things we can do on the technology front to build on the lethality of Ukraine to protect itself from ballistic missile attack. If we did that, combined with creating tools to punish those countries that prop up Putin, that make money off this war, then I think we've got the best chance since I've been coming here in the last 5 years to get Putin to the peace table.
Whether you loved or hated Lindsey Graham's not the point of this video. The point of it is that he's an American citizen, and just 5 days ago, the Iranians were calling for his death. And now Iranian state television is celebrating his sudden death out of nowhere and saying that he's in hell.
واصل شدن لیندسی گراهام.
I have news for President Trump in case he doesn't know it already. The majority of people have had it. We're tired of Iran. We're tired of this ongoing war. Let's stop playing games and take these Islamic scum and rid of them. They want war. Let's give it to them.
Dear fellow Americans, this is not a disparagement on anyone, any race or any creed, not against Muslims, not against Arabs, not against Indians, not against any other nationality. It's a rant against Zohan Mandami and his leftist, Marxist, communist ways. Go back to where you were born, Mandami. You don't belong in America. Go back to where you belong and go run for office there. And the same thing with Ilhan Omar and the other one, whatever the hell her name is. Go back. Get out of office. Take off your headscarves. You shouldn't be in office. Assimilate or get out. My grandparents came from Sicily and Naples, and they taught me, speak of the English, this is America. God bless America. My grandfather enlisted in World War I, fought, and got wounded 3 times, critically wounded, and went back in office. He helped build New York City as an immigrant, Italian immigrant, as the Irish and the Germans and the Scottish and the Jewish. Many immigrants. There were less than 100 Muslims at the turn of the 19th century in New York City, you piece of garbage. And this is no disparagement. I have many Muslim friends, Islamic friends, wonderful people that are not Marxists, communists, and socialists. And this new generation of New York City boomers or idiots and the other immigrants, Hispanic immigrants that are wonderful people and hardworking and understand what you're making of New York City and your little policies are full of Mandami. You should be pulled out of office. There should be a constitutional amendment that a jerk-off like you shouldn't be able to run. You should spend time in America, at least a generation, especially those of you that come from a country that has a totally different philosophical ideology bent. And what you did to the Catholic Church by snubbing the Archbishop. You jerk. You jerk. What you did, snub Little Italy, and you want to take down the statues. You're a jerk, Mandami, and I hope every New York Italian-American and Irish-American spits on you when they see you. I would spit on you if I saw you. Shame on you, you garbage man.
Gemini Lounge, and we all flew out to California. Bo Dietl was great in that movie. The star was, who was that kid? Oh, Emil Hirsch was the star. He was also in that movie when he lived next door to the porn star.
Emil Hirsch.
Emil Hirsch. Alicia Cuthbert was in that movie. So Emil was the star of this one. It was initially called Gemini Lounge, but then a bunch of Testa mobsters got pissed off. And I think Danny A changed the name to Inside Man, which is confusing because only a couple of years before that, Denzel Washington made a movie that was titled Inside Man. So it's the same name. Lucy Hale was in it. I did many scenes with Lucy. She's a big-time star. And Davi was in the movie. Now, Davi, I don't think he's in Gravesend with me, but he's a big-time actor. He was the guy that wanted helicopters up the ass. Big line in the movie Die Hard. He was in Goonies and Wise Guy and so much great stuff. He'll be on this show coming up this morning at about 7:55. I think he was on with Roger Stone here yesterday, but this is the big one today for Robert. And again, he and I are good friends, and he took what I said a step further. Remember, I said on Friday on a video that is still going viral. I made the video Friday morning before that show. Now it's Monday morning. It's still going viral. And I ended it with, where's the mafia when you need them? And I thought a lot of people would be very upset about that. But I guess when you've already called this guy a terrorist, a jihadist, a socialist, a communist, a Marxist, a cockroach, that, the mafia stuff didn't bother him. But Davi took it a step further. If I see you, I'll spit on you. Well, how about that, Lewis? Garbage man, if I see you, I'll spit on you. And every Italian-American should spit on him. How about that?
I want video. I want to see.
Yeah, I want to see that, too. That reminds me of this guy that I call out on this show all the time because he's a racist and he's a terrible television analyst. He sucks up to the Democrats and the DSA. I don't know why anybody would put this guy on their show. Of course, he's on CNN because that's death. Outside of Scott Jennings, and I'll include Caitlin Collins, you're on CNN and Anderson Cooper. It's death. And then he's on this local communist station, New York One. And I like, again, for the millionth time, I like Roger Clark. I like Shannon Ferry. I even like the morning leprechaun, Pat Kiernan. But it's basically a communist socialist station. And this guy, Lewis, who does a nightly show, a nightly politics show, I think it's called Inside City Hall. It's repulsive. He sits there with people like Mamdani and giggles, Now he does a new show on Thursday nights, him and Mamdani in the streets or something. I don't know. He's the type of guy that walks down the street and ogles AOC and can't even control himself. He's a loser. He's a racist, black loser. So he writes a story this morning in some rag that only Noam reads, The Intelligencer. You read that, right, Noam?
I don't even know if I've heard of that.
Well, he writes all the time in The Intelligencer. Is it an online? Can somebody find out? Is this online? So he writes this morning, Errol Lewis, the mayor's approach has been successful enough to scare off any credible local political opponents. Is that true? How do we know? I mean, he hasn't even served 7 months yet. A lot of these political opponents are even in office now. Rumors of Jessica Tisch or Julie Menon. How does Errol Lewis know 3.5 years before the election that he scared off any decent people? How does he know that?
I don't know how he could know that.
He doesn't. That's what I'm trying to say to you. He's a moron. He's a moron. He goes on to say 3 critics who have announced they are considering a run against Mamdani in 2029 are John Schell, a retired NYPD chief of department. That's nice, right? Comedian Michael Rappaport. That's nice. And here's the beauty. And WABC radio host Sid Rosenberg, a bigot who recently had to apologize for calling the mayor an America-hating, Jew-hating, radical Islam cockroach during one of his on-air rants. Well, you should know, Lewis, you racist fat bastard, that I revoked that apology. I took it back. I no longer apologize. There's nothing I can say about the mayor that's bad enough. And especially after last week's shenanigans, leaving off the Italians, the Irish, the Greeks, the Jews, the Germans. I don't care what he said Friday afternoon when people like me scared the hell out of him. Or that Italian-American Civil Rights League, whatever that is. I don't care what he said then. He told you how he really felt last Thursday. Lewis goes on to say, none of these men have run for office before or developed any kind of political presence or base. None are remotely serious enough to change the minds or win the support of the hard-headed business titans who have sized up the situation and decided to continue investing billions of dollars in New York despite the election of a socialist mayor. How does he know that? I swear to God, every day I want to run more and more. And again, I don't think I'd win. I'm not stupid. Michael, he wouldn't win either, Rappaport. He'll be here tomorrow. But I want him to run. John Schell, the only person that shouldn't run because he's a two-time loser, and not just a two-time loser, but embarrassing, losing by about 60 points to Eric Adams, and then getting just 7% in the last election, is Curtis Sliwa, who used to be a friend of mine for a long time, but he's an asshole. And he comes out this weekend and rips Bibi Netanyahu. You know, there's a lot of rumors about whether or not Curtis and his family are anti-Semites. I never went there, and I'm still not going there. I don't know that. But supposedly his wife put out a lot of stuff. You know about any of this, Noam?
I don't.
After
actually.
October 7th, I don't know either. But it's out there, and I never talked about it. And I'm not going to be specific about it now because I don't know the details. And the truth is, I went out of my way to protect Curtis for years when he was running and acting as if he really cared about the Jews, showing up at, events and all that. But the truth is, once he lost, he couldn't wait to blame the Jews, which is pretty gross, no? Don't you think, no?
I don't know that I heard him blaming the Jews.
He did it here with me in studio. Your people. If I had $1 for every time Curtis Sliwa said your people, I'd have Mike Francesa money. What are you, nuts? You pay attention at all?
I do pay attention.
Said it a million times. Your people. If I lose, your people. If I lose, your people. 1,000,000 times. And now, of course, he's taken the Bibi has to go. Bibi's kid. Which I know that even Jews say that, and I even have family members that love Israel that say that. That's fine. I can deal with it when it comes from them. But when it comes from Curtis or these other people, I chalk it up to maybe not rabid anti-Semitism, but anti-Semitism. That's my call. I know you disagree, no, but that's my call.
I don't say it that way.
Yeah, I do. 100%. 95% of these people who hate Bibi are absolutely anti-Semites. There are some. Hey, they don't like the government in Israel. That's fine. Look, I hated Biden. Didn't mean I hated America. So I'd be a hypocrite to say that, but when these people get exposed, man, all the time, all the Bibi headers they get exposed all the time. All the time. Your people. Sorry, your people is biased. You don't think your people is biased? If I lose this election, it's your people. Now, Trump said the same thing, But President Trump has done a heck of a lot more for Israel than Curtis Sliwa has, no? Wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I would say that. But I think Curtis Sliwa has been quite the defender, and he's gone to a lot of events.
Not really. No, not really. Because you're not really paying attention.
But I am paying attention.
No, you're not. You don't even know that his wife put stuff on Twitter that after October 7th that many, many people are still furious about.
But you said you weren't even sure that she had done
No, I'm sure she did it. What I'm saying is I'm not going to talk about it. I'm not going to get specific about it like I would with the mayor's wife. But she did. So now what?
Well, I'd like to see it.
Well, go look for it. What do you mean you'd like to see it?
I'm going to go look for it.
And then
I'll
what?
see.
And then when you see it because it exists, then what?
Right. I don't know. I'll make my decision then.
yeah, okay. What, is he paying you or something?
No, he's not paying me at all. I have known him for a long time.
So have I. As long as you have, not longer. I was closer with him than you were. Closer.
Maybe you were, but I don't.
No, I was.
Anti-Semitic would not be a word I would use to describe him.
When you say your people, okay, and you're married to somebody who is...
But those bits he did with you, they were bits. And obviously he was running, but
they weren't bits. No, they weren't bits.
So why didn't you call him out then when he said your people?
Because I wanted him to win. Because I hated Mamdani so much, right. And I wasn't a Cuomo fan. I really wanted Curtis. I knew better, obviously. I really wanted him to win. But I never believed that he was this staunch defender of the Jews, that he loved the Jews. I never believed that. Never. Been to Israel and showed up at events. He's not a raging anti-Semite. I wouldn't put him in the same class as, Mamdani. But I'll tell you this, he don't like Israel and the Jews as much as Andrew Cuomo does. And I never defend Andrew Cuomo on this show, do I? Ever. No. Ever. Cuomo is a much better defender of the Jews than Curtis Sliwa. How about that? Anyway, I don't talk about Curtis. God, it's a waste of time and his no ratings and his 7%. But I just wanted to get that Errol Lewis stuff out there because people are still really angry with Mamdani, even though, again, I guess, are they changing those maps today? Is that the deal?
He, of course, blamed the Adams administration.
That was ridiculous. Yeah. How is that possible?
I don't know if that's possible. It doesn't seem possible. And somebody should look it over anyway. Why would you just take a map from the Adams administration and throw it out there without looking at it first? And all he said was he didn't say specifically what he was going to add to it, right? He just said that he essentially gave the blame to Mayor Adams, said, well, we just took this map and we put it out there.
So is today the day that he actually changes it?
Don't know.
To appease? You don't know.
They said they were going to update it. I don't know if it's today or not.
Okay, Fair enough.
I mean, it seems like they could have done it in about 90 seconds over the weekend. All you got to do is just, bring it up and add things to it.
Right.
You're done.
Right.
Save it, send it back out.
Yeah. Well, the big story today is Lindsey Graham. That's the big story. That's what everybody's talking about. I pretty much booked this whole show about Lindsey, starting with Ainsley Earhart, who, of course, is on Fox and Friends every morning. She's terrific. She's one of the 3 on Fox and Friends, and she was born in Spartanburg, South Carolina. Very proud South Carolina girl. Married the quarterback at Clemson, her first husband. Now, of course, she is engaged to my friend Sean Hannity, who'll be here later on this morning. And I saw her on Fox News yesterday morning with Rachel Campos Duffy and Charlie Hurt and Griff Jenkins, and she was so good that I reached out to her right away, and she would join me first thing coming up at about 7 o'clock this morning, Ainsley Earhart. Then my first cousin, Norm Coleman, who along with Matt Brooks runs the RJC, which is the Republican Jewish Coalition. You may remember I spoke for them in Las Vegas last October. I'll be speaking for them again next month, August, back in Las Vegas. And I had Lindsey Graham on my show over the years 2 or 3 times, and it was all because of Norm. Norm and Lindsey were really, really, really tight, dating back to the George Bush days when Norm, that Lindsey was part of those 3 amigos with John McCain and Joe Lieberman, right up until Lindsey died a couple of days ago. I know they did many Middle East trips together. So Norm Coleman, who I love dearly, will be on this morning as well. And we'll also talk, like I said, to Sean Hannity, who may have been Graham, along with Trump and Trey Gowdy, may have been Graham's best friend. And I did see Sean at about 9 o'clock yesterday morning on Fox News, and he also made me very emotional. So we'll talk to Sean. And then in the 9 o'clock hour, we'll talk to the lady that has been serving in Congress for many years out of South Carolina. She just ran for governor, but because Trump endorsed somebody else, she got booted in that gubernatorial race. But I wonder if she has her eyes on possibly this vacant Graham seat. I doubt it, because she's not going to get any real love from the Republican Party, but that's Noam's friend Nancy Mace. What do you think, Noam?
I don't think she stands a shot, because the governor makes that appointment, and he's not appointing her.
McMaster's not going to do that. No. Henry McMaster. So on the Lindsey Graham story alone, today you get Ainsley Earhart, Norm Coleman, Sean Hannity, and Nancy Mace, as well as Don Catsimatidis, and again, Robert Davi, who did that amazing video about Mamdani. But let's get to the Lindsey Graham news. Noam, go ahead, take it away.
Well, we're finding out that he, it was just heart problems, and that's what he died from on Saturday night.
Which I got to tell you, I fell into the trap. I've since deleted it. But there were so many people on social media yesterday saying, well, hold on a second. Just 5 days ago, the IRGC put out this video, you saw it, or these posters, I don't know what it was, where they put red dots right between the eyes of President Trump, Marco Rubio, Laura Loomer, Ben Shapiro, mazel tov to Ben Shapiro. His wife had their 5th child over the weekend, and Lindsey Graham. So 5 days ago, the IRGC is asking for the assassination of Lindsey Graham. He goes to Ukraine. He's seemingly healthy, and you know about the Russia influence there in Ukraine, which Iran is in bed with all these bad characters. He's seemingly healthy. He speaks on Friday in Ukraine, the day before he died, and he looked fine. I know Trump said he sounded a little tired when he got home, but that was a 20-hour trip, 10 hours on a plane and 10 hours on a train. But he sounded just fine. In fact, here it was. Once again, Lindsey Graham on Friday, the day before he died, talking from Ukraine about the support for Russian sanctions. Lewis, Lindsey Graham, cut number 4.
We've reached agreement with the White House on a version of the Russian sanctions bill that they will support. It means it's going to become law. So when I get back to Washington, I'm going to go with Senator Blumenthal to the Republican and Democratic leader to see if we can find time to move this Russian sanctions package that would give tools to President Trump to help end this war. There's some things we can do on the technology front to build on the lethality of Ukraine to protect itself from ballistic missile attack. If we did that, combined with creating tools to punish those countries that prop up Putin, that make money off this war, then I think we've got the best chance since I've been coming here in the last 5 years to get Putin to the peace table.
That was the day before he died. So I go on Instagram. I get up very early Sunday morning, and I got to tell you, the Fox and Friends crew on the weekends breaks so much news, right? I mean, Operation Epic Fury, that started on a Saturday. The last assassination attempt on the president at the White House Correspondents' Dinner, that was big on a Saturday morning. Lindsey Graham's death on a Saturday. So I feel like I get up in the morning, and of all people, Rachel Campos Duffy is breaking the news, but that was the case again yesterday. And then I start to see all over social media, Noam and Lou, all these people saying, whoa, 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 too much of a coincidence. 5 days ago, Iran basically said, you're dead. And then he dies. And then Iran, and I played this in the open, on Iranian television, they actually took credit. They took credit for Graham's death. So I see Grant Stinchfield, who I like a lot. He's on Instagram talking about this was an assassination. He wasn't the only one. It started popping up by the hundreds and thousands. So I asked the question myself. How does a seemingly healthy 71-year-old guy have his life threatened, and 5 days later he's dead? And then, of course, you do your real research, which is why I took down the video, and you find out that both of his parents died at a young age and that he had a heart issue. And eventually the aorta tore, and he died of a massive heart attack. That seems to be that's the report, right, Noam?
Yeah, well, his father died from a heart attack when he was 68 years old, had heart. And so Lindsey knew he had heart disease, and there was this tear. And obviously he didn't know he was going to die in the way in which he did, but there was family history there, and he knew that he had heart issues.
President Trump, I guess, spoke to Lindsey. Well, Lindsey called Trump. That's how it worked out. Lindsey Graham landed in D.C. after that long trip, and he wanted to update Trump on the negotiations and the conversations he had with Zelensky and others in Ukraine. So here it is again. This would be cut number 2, Lewis, President Trump on that very last phone call with Lindsey Graham.
I got a call last night sometime at, the early evening, maybe in the 7s, and he called and he said, we're all set for the Save America Act. He was pushing the Save America Act like crazy. He got back, said he just landed from Ukraine. I said, that's a long trip to make. And he said, he sounded a little tired, but perfect, but a little bit tired. Had a right to be. And he was a worker. He was really a worker. But he sounded great, actually. But he actually said he was tired.
One of the things I love most about Lindsey was his non-apologetic love, not just support, but love for the state of Israel, which is becoming more and more difficult in this country, where anti-Semites pop up every day. Every day they pop up. So I was nice to see Bibi on that show yesterday morning. I will tell you, I think I told you this on the air before, Noam and Lewis, that during a commercial break when I was on Fox News a couple of weeks ago, talking about Iran with Rachel, Charlie, and Griff, we had a back and forth about Bibi in Israel. I told you this, right, Noam?
Yeah.
Yeah. And they weren't exactly big Bibi fans, I got to be honest. And I was trying to explain to them why they should be. So I was surprised but happy to see Bibi on that show yesterday morning because Bibi loved Lindsey and Lindsey loved Bibi. So this was the Israeli Prime Minister, Bibi Netanyahu, on Fox News yesterday morning, honoring Lindsey Graham, Lewis. This is cut number 3.
He was such an American patriot. He was unabashedly for America, and he was unabashedly against the enemies of America. And he spoke what he thought. He had a way with him. He had this charming Southern drawl, and you knew something was coming when he would say, well, I'm just a poor old Southern boy. And then he's coming in with the most penetrating insight that few people can deny and that everybody recognizes is the truth. He had a way with him. He was a wonderful, wonderful friend, a great American patriot, and a great champion of the Israel-American alliance, and I'll miss him personally a lot. I really, really thought the world of him. And I think the world has lost a great human being. America has lost a great senator, and we have lost a great friend.
Oh, my God. You can't make this up. I swear to God. So that's BB. You know, I've never had BB on this show. I've dined with BB, gone to wineries with BB, gone to memorials with BB. Remember, Noam, I was there for Yom HaZikaron on Mount Herzl. I celebrated Yom Ha'atzmaut, Independence Day, with BB. Every time I go to Israel, BB and I end up in pictures together, including just 3 weeks ago. You remember that? And I've been complaining for how long that BB has never come on.
A couple of years.
I just got a message from Dr. Ophir Falk, who was on this show last week, BB's senior policy advisor. He says, Sid, don't forget, in Israel right now, it's about 1:37 in the afternoon. I'm shaking. He said, Sid, BB just said to me he wants to come on today. A few minutes on Lindsey. When? What number?
Wow, that's huge.
So Bibi Netanyahu will be on this program today. Wow.
All right,
that's
stop
big.
everything.
Literally, I'm shaking. Curtis, make sure you're listening.
You know,
wow.
Lindsey's like one of the last left old school Israel supporters. I mean, there's not many like him in the Senate anymore, or Congress for that matter, right? The new generation, they're not Israel supporters. So he was like one of the kingpins. It's a huge loss for the pro-Israel movement that he passed away, because we don't know for sure that whoever replaces him will feel the same way.
Couldn't agree more. I mean, he was special. So give me the details on the, I'm talking to BB's office right now, I'm sorry, but give me the details on the special election. You know, Henry McMaster.
Well, he gets to choose. So that person would stay in office until January, and then they would have an election next year. So whoever he chooses obviously has a leg up on the competition, depending on who that is. So you'll have to think about who that is. But the backstory of Lindsey Graham, you know, which he didn't talk a ton about, but, you know, I don't know that you know his story, but when he was the first member of his family to go to college. You know, he lived in the small little town of Central South Carolina. His family owned a local pool hall and bar, but it didn't make a lot of money, so they lived in a one-room house behind the bar. I mean, they didn't have a lot of cash, but he was able to become the first person in the family to go to college at the University of South Carolina, and while he was there, that's when his mother passed away of Hodgkin's lymphoma. And then just a couple years later, his father died from a massive heart attack, actually, at the age of 68. So he had to adopt his sister and essentially parent her. She was 7 years younger, so he's 21 years old. He's in law school. He then takes legal guardianship of his 13-year-old sister and essentially raises her while he's going through law school. And to do so, he joined the military because he knew he would get the stipend from the military to help pay for law school. So he had sort of an incredibly tough start to his life. And to think what he did in the years after that, those years in the military, he was a JAG lawyer for a while, and then he got into politics in 1992, South Carolina House of Representatives. And there, you know, he became the superstar once he came to the Senate. I think it was 2002 that he became a senator.
Darlene, I think, is his sister's name.
I think Darlene.
Yeah. Ainsley will talk a lot about her, and Sean Hannity and others. Just waiting for BB's office to get back to me. It looks like Bibi Netanyahu will make his very first ever appearance on this show. Has he been on with Katz and Cosby? Or would this be BB's first ever appearance on WABC?
Don't know, but I wouldn't be surprised if it was his first.
Wow. That is unbelievable. Now I'm waiting for Dr. Opio Falk to get back to me, because you never know. He could say, well, this just popped up and...
Just kidding.
Just kidding.
No, I'm sure if they're telling you he's coming on, he's going to come on.
You think so?
Yeah, of course. He wants to make a statement, so he's going to do it.
All right, so stay tuned for my confirmation. You know, Lindsey was the type of guy, too, Noam and Lou, I know you both know this, that he would walk across the aisle. He was a very fiery guy, okay, and he wasn't afraid to chop you down if you messed with him. You know, I'm going to get the audio to play this morning as well during the hearings for Chief Justice Kavanaugh. He was the one, that was his shining moment. September 27th, my wife's birthday, the beautiful Danielle, 2018. That was a shining moment when he defended Kavanaugh against the lunatics on the left who tried to paint Chief Justice Kavanaugh as some alleged rapist or out-of-control frat boy. You remember all that. So he'll chop you down. He's not afraid, but he also was very willing to speak to both sides of the aisle. In fact, him maybe more than anybody. But that didn't stop the lunatic left from coming out yesterday, and many, not the politicians, let me make this very, very clear, because as much as I kill the Democrat politicians, I didn't hear much from them yesterday. But the entertainers and the people on the street, those lunatic Democrats, they couldn't wait to take their shots at Lindsey Graham. He had just died. So the great Lou Ruffino made me aware of this one. You know this this Chinese lesbian artist, Noam Margaret Cho?
Comedian, yeah.
What did I call her?
I think you called her a lesbian artist.
Yeah, she's right. And she's a comedian, and she's not funny. She's just stupid, lesbian Chinese comedian, unfunny, and stupid Margaret Cho. So she did an Instagram video yesterday, which Lewis made me aware of this morning. She wasn't the only one. There were plenty of lunatic Democrats and liberals celebrating Lindsey Graham's death. If you missed it, this is the unfunny Margaret Cho, Lewis, cut number 8.
Bye, Lindsey. Bye, Lindsey.
Bye, Lindsey.
From the closet to the coffin.
Oh, my God.
Real seamless. Real seamless. Also, yeah, Mitch McConnell. So it's Mitch McConnell, Lindsey Graham. It does happen in threes. Hope.
Wow. Comes in threes. McConnell, Graham. Now, clearly, what she meant by the third was President Trump. From the closet to the coffin. So Lewis, being the great American he is, and he's not even a huge fan of Lindsey like I am, but he's a great American, Lewis. He goes on her page, and he goes after this bitch. Nicely done, Lewis. Yeah. What exactly did you write to Margaret Cho?
I'm looking. Hang on, because I didn't.
You did a very good job with this. I was very, very proud of you, Louis. Very.
Well, it just, I guess, what's the word? Triggered me or something.
Yeah, you were triggered.
It just, I don't know. Like, why would you?
He just died. Shut up, stupid.
Yeah.
She's not funny anyway. Never been funny.
I don't understand wishing presidents dead, because that's the thing that got me.
Yeah.
I've never. And there's been a lot of terrible presidents.
I'd be a hypocrite because I hate to admit it, but I probably did want Biden dead at one point. I'm not going to look. I hate the Democrats. I don't know if anybody hates the Democrats, including Trump, more than me. So I'm sure I have done that. I know I wanted Bernie Sanders to die many times. If Bernie Sanders died this morning, if Mamdani died this morning, I couldn't care less.
That's the one.
Go print that, Errol Lewis. If Mamdani died this morning, I couldn't care less. Okay, so I'm no better than Margaret Cho. Except I'm not Chinese, I'm not a lesbian. But what did you write back to her?
I said you disgust me, you and your liberal party disgust me. To hope for the death of an American president, whether you like him or not, it's disgusting. To say we live in the same country as Americans really disgusts me. You hate him, you're unhappy he's president, I get it. I'm not so happy either with the guy recently, but to wish a president dead is beyond repulsive. I've lived, oh my God, through more than a few terrible presidents, Biden being one. He didn't even know where he was at the end. It was embarrassing, but I never wished them dead ever. But thanks, this was just as funny as you always were.
That's a great ending. This is just as funny as you always were. Leave it to Lewis to be the only funny one in that exchange, right? Funny. Lou Rufino's funny. Oh, God, excuse me. So,
okay?
I've got indigestion. Well, that whole thing just made me nauseous. That's why, Lewis. But thank God for you.
Yeah, well, I don't. And it was a whole, litany
I
of them.
I saw.
And they're all, and I'm not in a particular party, and I don't really, but it's all a liberal slant of hate.
It's really gross.
You couldn't do this if Biden was about to, keel over or anything.
Right.
I mean, can you imagine? Oh, great. Now he's gone.
Well,
can get rid of...
Well, this show maybe, but...
Yeah, I get it.
See, at least I'm honest, though, right? I don't come off like I'm any better than any of you. I'm not. But I can guarantee you this, all kidding aside, outside of Mamdani and maybe Bernie Sanders. I don't know, maybe
See, if you start
I got a long list. Maybe I should just shut up right now, right, Noam? What do you think?
No, it's okay.
I got a long list of people that wouldn't upset me if they died. But I'm not going to say it because I expect people to be more civil than that on this day because my guy died. Now, if your guy died, I don't care. But my guy died, so. You see what I'm saying?
I see what you're saying.
Yeah, sure.
But what exactly am I saying?
I have no idea.
Mm-hmm. But what else is going on out there that we need to know about?
Somebody help me.
That's obviously the biggest story of the day. I mean, do you want to talk about Iran? It's still a mess there.
What a mess.
Shooting off missiles.
We won the war. Yeah, we're shooting off missiles. They're shooting off missiles, and everything's fantastic.
Yeah, so there's not a whole lot of movement there. There was one story locally. There was just a chaotic scene up in the Bronx. It was Jay-Z was doing a 3-night.
Let me just say this. Mm-hmm. I'm glad you got to this story. And I have a feeling that Lou already knows where I'm going with this. If, in fact, you went to Yankee Stadium on Saturday night to watch Jay-Z perform, and please don't get offended or upset, you are a loser. That's it. If you go see Jay-Z perform live, you're a loser. So what happened? The losers went nuts?
Yeah, well, what happened last night was third night, final night of this 3-run run. And what happens, a group of people tried to overwhelm the security by jumping the turnstiles last night.
And to do what?
To get in for free.
Oh.
So they did. And they closed down all the gates immediately. I don't know. We don't have all the information because the NYPD hasn't been released it. But I assume they were able to find these people. And in the meantime, the fans couldn't get in. So Jay-Z, when they finally reopened the gates to let people in, it wasn't until 10 o'clock. It took a long time to get them through security. And Jay-Z didn't go on last night till 12:15. He was still going when I drove in this morning, at like 3 in the morning. So I don't know when the concert actually ended. But he did go ahead and do the concert, and apparently went off okay.
You want to see a real concert? Do what my friend Vic did. Go to see Jack White in Brooklyn last night. And I think he performed Saturday and Sunday at is it the Paramount Theater in Brooklyn?
Sounds
Jimmy
right.
Leinart and Tickets USA made that happen. Is that right?
Sounds right.
Right, the Paramount Theater?
I
know you love Jack White and the Seven. Well, he's not with the Seven Stripes anymore.
White Stripes.
White Stripes, yeah. Seven Nation Army, that's the song, right? I get confused. I'm not a huge Jack White guy, but
you're all over it.
I'm all over it. That was a big show in Brooklyn the last couple of nights. There is one concert I'm dying to see this summer. I've forgotten already. Exactly.
It's Brooklyn Paramount.
Brooklyn Paramount, that's what I said. Thank you. We're at the Major League Baseball All-Star break. The Mets, in the last 22 games before the All-Star break, won 6. They won 6-16. They were just swept by the red-hot Boston Red Sox, who ended the first half. It's not the first half. They played more than half the season already, but they call it the first half. Red Sox ended the first half by winning 9 straight. And the red-hot Yanks with a weekend sweep and some big hits late in the game. Yankees scored a lot of runs in this series win over Washington in the 8th and 9th innings. So the Yankees playing well at the end, just in time to save Aaron Boone's job, probably. So tonight you get the home run hitting contest, and only one local player is involved, and that is, talking about the Yanks, Ben Rice. He's got about 30 home runs, this kid, already. I think he's second all-time home runs at the All-Star break for the Yankees, behind Roger Maris, who I believe hit 31 in that magical season that he had. So Rice is in the home run hitting contest tonight. Tomorrow night, you get the Major League Baseball All-Star game from Philadelphia. And then we get back to playing baseball on Thursday. And now we're down to the Final Four in soccer. I watched a lot of this weekend. I guess tomorrow you'll get Spain and France, 2 Jew-hating countries. I hate them both. Can't root for anybody in that game, although I do think France will win. And then Wednesday, my team, Argentina, they love the Jews. Argentina will take on England, who got past Norway. And then it all comes to a head Sunday in New Jersey for the finals. Been a pretty good tournament, yes, no?
Yeah, I've watched a lot of it.
Yeah, me too.
It's been exciting to
I'm
watch.
surprised, I know. I've actually liked it, too. So congratulations to Andrew Giuliani and President Trump and Sean Duffy and all the fine people that put this thing together. It's been pretty great. We'll take a break. Again, it looks like a monster show today, part of that great trio on Fox News. Ainsley Earhart, she's our first guest. But before it's all said and done, it looks like Norm Coleman, Robert Davi, Nancy Mace, Sean Hannity, and making his debut on this program, Bibi Netanyahu, all coming up this morning on the Monday edition.
Sid and Friends in the morning on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
If you wanted an FBI investigation, you could have come to us. What you want to do is destroy this guy's life, hold this seat open, and hope you win in 2020. You've said that, not me. You've got nothing to apologize for. When you see Sotomayor and Kagan, tell them that Lindsey said hello, because I voted for them. I would never do to them what you've done to this guy. This is the most unethical sham since I've been in politics. And if you really wanted to know the truth, you sure as hell wouldn't have done what you've done to this guy. Are you a gang rapist?
No.
I cannot imagine what you and your family have gone through. Boy, y'all want power. God, I hope you never get it. I hope the American people can see through this sham, that you knew about it and you held it. You had no intention of protecting Dr. Ford. None. She's as much of a victim as you are. God, I hate to say it, because these have been my friends. But let me tell you, when it comes to this, you're looking for a fair process, you came to the wrong town at the wrong time, my friend. Do you consider this a job interview?
The advice and consent role is like a job
You
interview.
consider that you've been through a job interview.
I've been through a process of advice and consent under the Constitution. Which
Would you say you've been through hell?
I've been through hell and then some.
This is not a job interview.
Yeah.
This is hell.
This
is going to destroy the ability of good people to come forward because of this crap. Your high school yearbook. You have interacted with professional women all your life, not one accusation. You're supposed to be Bill Cosby when you're a junior and senior in high school. And all of a sudden you got over it. It's been my understanding that if you drug women and rape them for 2 years in high school, you probably don't stop. Here's my understanding. If you lived a good life, people would recognize it, like the American Bar Association has the gold standard. His integrity is absolutely unquestioned. He is the very circumspect in his personal conduct, harbors no biases or prejudices. He's entirely ethical, is a really decent person. He is warm, friendly, unassuming. He's the nicest person, the ABA. The one thing I can tell you, you should be proud of. Ashley, you should be proud of this, that you raised a daughter who had the good character to pray for Dr. Ford. To my Republican colleagues, if you vote no, you're legitimizing the most despicable thing I have seen in my time in politics. You want this seat? I hope you never get it. I hope you're on the Supreme Court. That's exactly where you should be. And I hope that the American people will see through this charade.
This is Sid on Sports. Sponsored by Peerless Boilers on 77 WABC.
Justin Alec here with the sports update, sponsored by Pete Morgan and Peerless Boilers. Go to peerlessboilers.com to find a dealer near you. Peerless Boilers, the world's best built boilers. Start out here in Washington. Ben Rice had a 2-run triple in the top of the 8th to give the Yankees their third straight come-from-behind victory over the Nationals. Final score 5-3 to complete the sweep. Up next for the Yankees, they'll return after the All-Star break come Friday against the LA Dodgers back at home in the Bronx. You will see Ben Rice tonight in the Home Run Derby from Citizens Bank Park out in Philadelphia. And that's before tomorrow night's All-Star game, 8 p.m., American League and the National League. We'll get to that in a second. First out in Queens, the Mets fell 3-2 in 10 innings to the Red Sox, suffering a sweep at the hands of Boston over the weekend. Up next for the Mets, they'll open their second half come Thursday following the All-Star All-Star break remaining in Philadelphia against the Phillies in the only scheduled game of that day. And speaking of that All-Star game, you'll see Toronto's Dylan Cease start for the AL against Philadelphia's Christopher Sanchez for the National League. Let's check in on the World Cup semifinals getting going tomorrow, 3 p.m. from Arlington, France and Spain. That's before Wednesday afternoon from Atlanta. You get England and Argentina in the other semifinal, all for the right to play in the World Cup final coming up Sunday from MetLife Stadium. And at Wimbledon, Jannik Sinner beat Alexander Zverev for his second consecutive title at Wimbledon. And for the women, it was Linda Noskova taking home the title. That is your sports, sponsored by Pete Morgan and Peerless Spoilers. Go to peerlessspoilers.com to find a deal under you. Peerless Spoilers, the world's best built boilers. I'm Justin Alec on 77 WABC.
Sid and Friends in the morning on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
I found out about 5 a.m. I ran downstairs and put on Fox and Friends, the weekend show, you know, Rachel, Charlie, and Griff. And they did wall-to-wall coverage. I got to tell you, my 3 favorite parts of the show were Bibi, because no one loves Israel more than me. Sean Hannity, who's going to join me this morning at 8:50 because I love Sean. And Sean's fiance, who's part of that great trio every morning on Fox and Friends, Ainsley Earhart. I said, I'd love to get Sean and Ainsley on tomorrow. And sure enough, here she is, Ainsley Earhart. Ainsley, good Monday morning. Let me start by saying I'm very sorry.
Thank you, Sid. Thank you so much for having me on. I'm honored to come on and talk about our friend. I grew up in South Carolina, and yesterday morning at 3 a.m., Sean had missed a text from Tim Scott, our other senator in South Carolina and also a dear friend of ours. And around 4 o'clock, Sean said he woke up and he said, thought, why do I have a missed call from Lindsey Graham? And he checked his messages, and he had several texts from different friends saying that Lindsey Graham had passed away. And Sean, we both are up early with this news and just in shock, because Lindsey talked to Sean almost every night, if not every night, and they would talk for a long time about Israel, because they both loved Israel too, or do love Israel, and just about politics. And Lindsey Graham, this was his life. People would always say, he's not married, and we would say, no, he is. He's married to his job. He just couldn't turn it off. He loved it. He lived for foreign policy. He lived for South Carolina. He was so proud of our state, loved golfing, and was just the happiest when he was at home. And I talked to his sister and some of his staffers yesterday, and just to tell them we love them and we're thinking about them. And there were tears, and just everyone is in disbelief. He apparently had just come home from this trip to Ukraine, and that's a really difficult trip, because it's a 10-hour plane. I mean, there's plane rides, and then there's a 10-hour train ride. And he did this regularly. And so he was complaining of just not feeling very well. He landed at Dulles on Saturday afternoon, went home to watch the soccer game, and was going to do a TV interview on Sunday morning, and then said, if I don't feel well, I'll go to the doctor on Sunday, or I'll call the doctor. But I think I'll be okay. I just need to rest. I'm probably just exhausted from the trip. And at about 8:30, DC Fire and EMS responded to a report of chest pains at his house. And from what I understand, one of his staffers, who he had talked to a few of his staffers that night, just complaining of not feeling great, they had called EMS. And then 8:35, they showed up. So it was very quick. And his deadbolt was secured, so they had to force entry and knock the door down, apparently. And then at 8:50, they radioed that CPR was in progress. And I know they tried chest compressions for a long time, and then they just couldn't save his life, Sid.
Horrible. Just horrible. I got to tell you, you got me all emotional watching the show yesterday, because, like you said, he wasn't married. He was married to politics, so he had no children. But the story of how he lost both of his parents at a young age, and given the choice, to move on, he actually adopted his own sister and raised her. And you spoke to his sister yesterday. She has to be an absolute mess. But what a beautiful story of a man dedicated to family, right, Ainsley?
Yes. She lives in Lexington, which is just a suburb of where I grew up, and it's a great area. And her name's Darlene, and she was only 13 when both of their parents died. As you know, we've all heard this story. And Lindsey was at the University of South Carolina, which is where I went to, and I would always see him. Sean and I would see him at the Carolina games when we would go back home for the football games. And he just loved our team and loved our state. And so he was at USC and would go back and forth to Central South Carolina, or Seneca, which is where his aunt, Berna May, lives. She died 3 years ago. And so his sister Darlene went to live with Berna May and her husband. And Lindsey would go back and forth from college to see his sister and help take care of her. And that happened, he was in 1976. So it was almost 50 years ago. His mother was Millie, and she died of cancer. And then 15 months later, their dad died. And he went by the nickname of Dude, and he died of a heart attack. So there were heart problems. And the preliminary findings are showing that he died of an aortic dissection, which is a tear that occurs in the inner wall of the aorta. And so his sister said, we did have heart problems in our family, and she was wondering if maybe it was some sort of a blood clot or something from travel. But she just said, I'm just in utter shock. She said he was my best friend. And, she's now, I don't know if you've ever had to plan a funeral and go through this. It's just a whirlwind, and you're grieving, but you're also trying to make plans, and especially at this level, at such a grand level. He was a senator and represent South Carolina for so long, and it's going to be massive. So many people loved him. And he loved golf. All of his staff was saying that he loved to play the ocean course, which is at Kiowa, which is just beautiful. It's right on the water. And then Yeaman's Hall he loved, and he would play with Trey Gowdy every week. And last night on Trey's show, he got choked up. He said, man, my friend, I'll see you on the first tee. But he just he loved going up to North Carolina to Cashers and play all the golf courses, the Cliffs golf courses, which are just beautiful up in the mountains, and they overlook the Carolinas. And there was an ad, because Lindsey, as you know, just won the primary, the Republican primary, and his sister was in an ad, and it was such a cute political ad. But she talked about how Lindsey responded the day that their dad died, and she said that Lindsey came running in and he grabbed me and he hugged me, and he said, I'm so sorry, but it's going to be okay. I'm going to take care of you. And she said, and that's exactly what he did. And so my heart is with her and all the prayers. And I said, Darlene, because I remember when my mom died and my grandparents had passed away, I talked to my aunt, and she said, Ainsley, I just feel like such an orphan. And I said, Darlene, I know you feel so alone. She said, I just feel so alone. She said, we just would talk all the time. He was my best friend. And Lindsey and I were at the state dinner recently, so this is the last time I think I saw him. I know I talked to him since, but we were at the state dinner when King Charles visited the White House, and President Trump and Melania invited both of us, and Sean couldn't go. So I was there with some coworkers, but, I went alone. And Lindsey said he talked to his staff, and the staff said he wasn't sure if he was going to go, because even though he's used to politics, you have to wear a black tie. He loves South Carolina. He's like, should I go to Washington? Should I do the state dinner? I'm going to be by myself. And he told his staff, I was so relieved when they sat me next to Ainsley, and I was glad that Melania did that too, because it's a little overwhelming when you're in a room with such big leaders and you might not know who you're sitting next to and you don't know their story. And, you can make conversation, which is something that, it's always nice and fun to do. But I was so relieved that Lindsey was next to me, because I wanted to catch up with him, and he's one of Sean, my fiance's best friends, and he represents my state, and he always was asking about my parents. And that night, how's your dad? How's he doing? Tell him I said hey. And he actually went, and we laughed, and we said, thank you for being my date. And it was just one of the highlights of my life, actually, being at that dinner. It was just fabulous. And the music was unbelievable. It was all military music, and they played Phantom of the Opera and a lot of Broadway productions. And it was just, they surrounded all the room and stood around behind us and in front of us and just played these beautiful songs. Lindsey and I were in awe. And so I was just nice. That was a nice way I had no idea that was going to be the last time I would see him. And then when my mom died, we had her funeral. And in South Carolina, you have the funeral at the church, but the day before you have the visitation, and that's at the funeral home. And sometimes it's open coffin and open casket, and that's what my family has always done. So my family was standing around the casket, and there was a long line out to the parking lot, and they said it was the second largest funeral they had ever had. And my mom was just loved. And so my mom and dad just wonderful people. And Dad actually worked part-time at the funeral home, so we had a lot of support. And Lindsey Graham waited in that line. Some people waited for 4 hours, and he just meant a lot to me. He could have just come to the funeral. He could have just sent flowers or sent a little note, but he actually stood in that line and, and gave me a hug and gave Sean a hug and talked to my dad. Just meant the world. He had a really good heart.
Sounds that way. This is the lovely Ainsley Earhart, part of the Fox and Friends crew. Of course, every morning on Fox News. Spartanburg, South Carolina girl, and clearly very, very close with Lindsey, as was her fiance, Sean Hannity. And I did hear the story you said when you told your father yesterday. Your father said he's dead. And you're like, yeah. And so in the final, I know you have to run, but in the final couple of seconds, and I hate doing this because it's always gut-wrenching and emotional, but if, in fact, you got a trip to heaven this morning for just an hour just to talk to Lindsey Graham, what would you tell Lindsey this morning?
Oh, Sean and I were talking about this. You said, I just want to tell him I'm so mad at you. If you weren't feeling well, why didn't you call the doctor? Why didn't you call me? Why didn't you tell me? We always feel that way. I would just say, you are a great man. Thank you for serving South Carolina. Thank you for loving Israel. Thank you for loving America and putting country first. You could have been a millionaire 4 times over, and you chose to love America and take the paycheck of a senator. And we really appreciate it, Lindsey. You were loved, and you love Jesus. You grew up in a Southern Baptist, and now you're with your parents. So have fun. And give Jesus a big hug for me, and I'll see you up there soon.
Perfect. Hopefully not soon, okay? Take it easy, Ainsley.
One day.
You're beautiful. You're great. This was a great conversation. Again, my heart goes out to you. Thank you for doing this, Ainsley, and good luck doing 4 hours this morning on this. You're great. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sid. God bless you.
God bless you, too. There she is, Ainsley Earhart, one of the great 3 on Fox and Friends on Fox News every morning.
Sid and Friends in the morning on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Bibi, of course, the Prime Minister, did a couple of days last week. He did the Fox News stuff with Kilmeade. He was the best of the 3. Did CNN, I don't know what else he did. I think he did one more, I forget. At any rate, he was back on yesterday after the untimely, tragic death of Lindsey Graham, because Lindsey Graham, who was very close with my first cousin, Norm Coleman, loved Israel. And Bibi loved him. And of all the people I saw on Fox News yesterday morning, I appreciated the Prime Minister of Israel's appearance the most, because in a world with growing anti-Semitism, where so many politicians here in the United States spend all their day criticizing Bibi and Israel, that relationship, Bibi, Graham, and Israel, was beautiful. So with that said, I am honored. I really am. I'm so happy to have this here. Here is the amazing Prime Minister of Israel, a man I call a friend, Bibi Netanyahu. Mr. Prime Minister, good morning. How are you?
Good morning, Sid. I'm in tatters, actually. I'm shocked. Nobody expected that. Lindsey Graham was a great American patriot, a great friend of Israel, and a great personal friend of mine. And he had such vitality, such energy, that to hear that his life was cut short in one fell swoop is a great shock. In fact, we were talking a few days before, as we did all the time, about how to advance security, how to win the war against Iran, finish the remnants, and then move on to a broader peace, which he very much believed in and devoted his life to. So it's a great shock and a great loss for America, a great loss for Israel, a great loss for our great alliance.
Yeah, now we have to worry about what comes next in the political world, Mr. Prime Minister. But I saw an interview with Lindsey Graham from a little while back, some young lady, it may have been Libby, I'm not even sure. But she asked him, she said, well, what do you love most about Israel? And he said, and I said the same thing in an interview I did when I was with you at JNS just a couple of weeks ago. So he said the people. He said the resilience, the courage, the love for country, the patriotism. So he understood, Lindsey, that the Israelis, Mr. Prime Minister, are a special brand of people.
Yes, I think he understood that, but I think he also understood that the security of Israel and America are intertwined. because Israel is the one country in the Middle East that is holding the Middle East together, that is preventing the Islamist radicals from taking over the Arabian Peninsula, the Jordan next to us, Egypt on the other side. Israel's strength is America's strength. He understood that. And he followed through on that also in the Senate and various legislation and throughout the years. In fact, I said yesterday that he actually often said to me, "You're not getting enough aid." And I said, "Well, Lindsey, I think we are, you know." He said, "No, I'm going to up it and don't interfere." And sometimes I tried and failed, but he would, for example, the ballistic missile defense, the defense against these horrible projectiles falling from the sky, you know. It's a bus full of explosives, one-ton explosives falling and destroying half a neighborhood. He said, "No, I'm going to increase the budget." So he was absolutely clear. He was courageous. Let me tell you something else about Lindsey. He was very, very funny. I mean, he could break you up because he has such a wry sense of humor and sometimes a very pithy remark. He was just superb in every way.
Just like you. I've seen you speak a million times from Mount Herzl, Yom HaZikaron, to Yom Ha'atzmaut, and again speaking with you at JNS just a couple of weeks ago. President Trump, same way. All you guys are very serious when you have to be, but very funny when you have the opportunity to be as well. So, you mentioned Iran, Mr. Prime Minister. We know where we are. America and Iran, we're still trading fire almost every day. Seems like there is some peace between you and Lebanon at this point. But overall, are you happy with where we are today in the American-Iran war and you guys with Hezbollah?
Well, if you compare it to where we were on October 7th, Israel has had the greatest comeback in history after the horrible massacre we sustained on that date. On October 7th, Hamas invaded us, butchered our people, raped and then murdered our women, burned our babies alive. And people thought that, and the next day Hezbollah joined them. So people thought that this is the end of Israel. This was Iran's plan to use its proxies for simultaneous invasions and to carpet bomb us with ballistic missiles and rockets. Didn't quite work out that way because when you see where we are, 3 years later, Iran has been itself hurt very badly by our joint operations, America and Israel. The regime has been decapitated in many ways. We hit their navy, their air force, their economy, their money machines. Everything is gone. And yes, they are still trying to negotiate their way out of this, but they're much weaker in Iran. Their axis of evil, their proxy, Hamas, is a shadow of its former self. We're in Gaza, preventing them from being able to reach our communities nearby. We're in Lebanon with a security zone that prevents Hezbollah from invading us. We've knocked out about 9,000 of their terrorists, knocked out their leadership, Nasrallah, knocked out almost all of their 150,000 ballistic missiles and rockets that were aimed at Israel. There was no such concentration of precision weaponry on Earth. Nowhere. It's gone. Nearly about 8% of it is left. So we knocked out Assad's regime by knocking out Hezbollah. So basically the link between Iran and Hezbollah in Lebanon, which was Syria, is gone. And of course, and we knocked out half of the Houthi leadership. So when you look at it, we've given a battering to the Iran terror axis. Parts of it are still there. It's still present, but it's nowhere near where it was before. And that's not only good for the Middle East, it's good for the entire world.
No
Still
question.
have to do a few things.
Yep. Not done yet, right? Not done yet, Mr. Prime Minister. But I will tell you, one of the funny exchanges.
I would say a lot.
Yeah.
Not done yet.
A lot.
Done a lot.
Okay.
Hell of a lot.
Okay. One of the funny exchanges I had with Dr. Falk last week, he was on literally the day after Trump was with Erdogan. And I'm with you. We cannot give Turkey F-35s. We just can't do that. It's ridiculous. The notion is just ridiculous. He said, well, we agree on about 99% of the stuff with President Trump. And I said, maybe that number is just a little lower. I know Trump loves Bibi and Bibi loves Trump, but maybe that number is just a little lower. But what is the real relationship right now, Mr. Prime Minister, between you and President Trump?
Well, it's never been better. I mean, one of the things that characterizes our friendship is that we talk openly with each other. You know, friends don't agree on everything, and sometimes they disagree. And we talk about it openly, in full candor. And I said to him that I think the fact that Erdogan and his administration are talking about the destruction of Israel, the conquest of Jerusalem, that's what one of his ministers said the other day. I look forward to being the governor of Jerusalem. His number 2 guy said Israel has no place among the nations. And the number 1 guy, Erdogan himself, says that basically he wants to reconstruct the Ottoman, that's the Turkish realm, which included Turkish control not only of Syria and of Jordan and parts of the Arabian Peninsula, but Israel. They ruled this land, and not for better, for worse, for 400 years. So I think that somebody that has that ideology, who harbors Hamas and glorifies these terrorists, I don't think should receive F-35s. I don't think he should get any weapons. He makes his own.
I
he
agree.
occupies Cyprus,
Yep.
half of Cyprus. He threatens Greece. Somebody who does all that should not have F-35s.
No, I couldn't agree more. 2 more will let you run. Mr. Prime Minister, I know that, you come to the United States often, and I'm in New York City, and I hate Mamdani. I'm going to use that word. You don't have to, Mr. Prime Minister. I will. I hate his guts. And he has threatened to arrest you time and time again, which we know he really can't do. But he seems pretty steadfast on arresting you when you get here. I know you're going to come speak at the UN in September. I know you have a trip, too, coming to D.C., but are you nervous that he may try that when you get here in September?
No, I'm not. I think he should look at who he's condemning, who he's praising. He's condemning Israel, the one democracy that stands shoulder to shoulder with American values, our soldiers fight shoulder to shoulder with America's valiant soldiers. But, who does he champion? Hamas, that calls openly to massacre every Jew on earth, that conducted that horrible massacre, the worst massacres on Jews since the Holocaust. He basically apologizes and excuses for Iran, the greatest terror regime on earth, that openly calls for the murder of President Trump and other senior officials, and so on. So he's with the terror actors. And I think the problem is, that he doesn't recognize, or he doesn't care, that those who hate the Jews and Israel ultimately hate America. And in fact, I think secretly, he hates America.
I'm not even sure it's secretly anymore. That's one on your.
Correct myself.
Yeah.
I'll correct myself.
Right. I know that elections are coming up, and look, I pray to God. I love you like I love Trump. I really do. I adore both of you guys. You know that. I love you. I love Sarah. I love all you guys. But, there is a group of people in Israel and here in America that are rooting for your defeat. Even though you've won 5 of the last 6 elections, are you pretty confident? Because I love what you said to Mark Levin at JNS. I was sitting in the front row looking right at you, BB, when you said, I plan on being here for a long time. I think you meant that, yes?
Yes, I did. But let me tell you, I run in every election as if I'm going to lose. It's up to me and my colleagues to make sure we don't. So I never make these gung-ho predictions. I say to my followers, in fact, I will lose unless you guys show up in the, on voting day. That's really my approach, and I think it's the right one. I intend to be around.
You are going to be around.
Thank you.
Thank you.
For the support. I appreciate it deeply. And let's just say that I'm really heartbroken over Lindsey's passing. He was a great American patriot, a great friend.
I'm so sorry. Yeah, I know you are. I know. I'm sorry, Mr. Prime Minister, BB. He did. He loved you. He really did. And we all do here. So thank you so much I know you have a very busy morning. Thank you for hopping on today, and continued success as the greatest Prime Minister Israel has ever had, my friend. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Take care.
God bless you. There he is, the Prime Minister, Israel, Bibi Netanyahu, making his debut on Sid and Friends in the morning. We'll take a short break. We'll be back right after these words.
Sid and Friends in the morning on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
If you just missed it, we're going to replay it tomorrow. We just got a call from Israel the Prime Minister himself making his debut on this program, my friend Bibi Netanyahu, calling in about the death of Lindsey Graham, and we touched on a bunch of other topics, Iran, Hezbollah, President Trump, all kinds of stuff. So a really special thanks to Dr. Ophir Falk and David Menser, all those folks in Israel, for making sure this happened this morning. And, of course, the biggest thanks goes to Prime Minister Bibi Netanyahu, who just made his debut on this program moments ago. And I got to tell you, I know that he ends up on Kilmeade's radio show once in a while. It's a Fox News broadcast. I don't think there's another radio show in America, Frank Morano just made this point, that's not, affiliated or associated with a major network like Fox News. I don't believe there's another radio show in America that's had President Trump and Bibi Netanyahu on in the last 2 months. I mean, you think that's right, Noam?
It's hard to me to think of any when it comes to Bibi Netanyahu. He's
right.
really
Trump
limited.
Does a couple. Trump does like Hugh Hewitt. He does a few more.
But
Mostly
Bibi has really limited his interviews. He doesn't give hardly any, and I think you're right. If he did, it was probably most likely to Fox News.
I think we're the only radio show to get Bibi Netanyahu. The only one. Again, we're not on TV. We're not on Fox News. He did CNN. He did Newsmax. It's a radio show. In one market, mind you. I'm not syndicated. Now, of course, the iPhone puts me all over the world. I've got listeners right now from Miami to Los Angeles to Tel Aviv, but I'm not a syndicated radio show. Now, I'm on the biggest market in the world. That's true. But there's none of the radio hosts in this country that's going to get that. Not one.
No, and I can't wait for, Mayor Mamdani at some point will do a Q&A today, and they'll ask him, hey, did you hear what Bibi Netanyahu said about your threat to arrest him if he sets in New York? And he basically told the guy to F off.
F off, yeah.
So.
I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid of that guy. That guy aligns himself with Hamas. That guy aligns himself. I mean, I beat the living daylights out of Mamdani on Friday with the whole Little Italy thing, but no one has beaten him up more than me since day one. You know that. I mean, at one point, they had to apologize. I revoked that apology for calling him a jihadist, a terrorist, a socialist, a Marxist, a communist, and a cockroach. I revoked that apology because there's nothing I can say bad about this guy that isn't true. Like I said on Instagram a few days ago, which went viral, he's not just the worst politician in my lifetime, and if God is good to me, I'll be 60 in April. He's the worst person. He's garbage. So you could just imagine how excited I was to watch Robert Davi's video. How great was that?
It was awesome.
Every Italian-American should spit on him. If I was here, I'd spit on him. That's the type of stuff I want to see. These pussies in New York that dance around it. Oh, he's still our mayor. He won fair and square. Shut up. He's a lowlife. He's now, by the way, that map the other day wasn't just the Italians he left out. He left out the Jews. He left out the Greeks. He left out the Irish. He left out the Germans. He hates everybody. Why anybody would go out of their way to make an argument for this guy makes no sense unless you're radical Islam. So Davi took it a step further. Now, I've done one movie with Robert Davi, Inside Man, Danny A., the true story about the Gemini Lounge. But he's a phenomenal actor. He's also a great New Yorker. And if you read Errol Lewis this morning, that racist from New York One, he's also on CNN, big fat black racist. He wrote this in the Intelligencer this morning. The mayor's approach has been successful enough to scare off any credible local political opponents. 3 critics who have announced they are considering a run against Mamdani in 2029 are John Schell, a retired NYPD chief of department, comedian Michael Rappaport. So he didn't say anything bad about those guys. Now here's a third one. And WABC radio host Sid Rosenberg, a bigot. He called me a bigot. This lying racist, a bigot, who recently had to apologize for calling the mayor an America-hating, Jew-hating, radical Islam cockroach during one of his on-air rants. And again, I revoked that apology. Now it turns out that Robert Davi may want to come back to New York and run for mayor himself. So here he is, the amazing actor, but more importantly, my good friend, Robert Davi. Robert, good morning, pal. How are you?
Good morning, Sid. Great to talk to you and weigh in a bit on what's happening in my wonderful city that I was born in and raised in, and now see being destroyed by a Marxist, socialist, communist. And This was prefaced, Sid. Let me give some background because people wonder. My political mentor, one of them, was a guy named David Horowitz. His family in the 50s were communists. He was a communist. He became part of the Black Panthers. And in the 70s, he saw the corruption. He saw the lying. He saw what it did. He had a change of heart and became one of the most vibrant conservative political thinkers. And he was out in Hollywood. And he would give lectures, and he would meet the greatest, Victor Davis Hanson. I would introduce people like that at these thing called the Wednesday Morning Club, and we would discuss politics. David wrote a book called Unholy Alliance in 2000, early 2000s, Radical Islam and the American Left. And then Arianna Fallaci, a left-wing journalist from Italy, who wrote a book called Interview with History in the 60s. She wrote a book called The Force of Reason, where she coined the term Eurabia. And there's nothing against, as I said in my rant, and I say, look, I've played all kinds of characters. In 1988, I played a Palestinian, Sid. That Alan Dershowitz was the technical advisor. It was a courtroom drama with myself as the Philistini. Sam Waterston was the prosecutor, and Ron Liebman, the great actor, was the Jewish defense attorney that the government put in to defend my character, Salim Ajami. I played an Orthodox Jew in 2024 in a film called Bardiov, produced by a 90-year-old Holocaust survivor.
That was a great movie.
And when I did great film.
Yep.
An important film, historical, true story. And when I did that film in 1988, I played the Palestinian. I went to the Museum of Tolerance in Los Angeles, spoke to Rabbi Head, because I did not have an understanding of the full Palestinian issue. I then went to the Syrian. He put me in touch with the Syrian mosque. I went and I spoke to them. Now, let me tell you something. When that film came out, it got rave reviews. It was produced by a man named George Englund, who produced The Ugly American and was Brando and Paul Newman's partner. Intelligent, highly intelligent guy. And the last script of Levinson Link, who wrote Columbo and other things. They were brilliant writers in America. And the people, they said to me, they said, don't worry, play it, because stories have to be told. This is what they said. Now, it wasn't like, oh, you have to play a Palestinian. No, they understood the empathy and the understanding of the Palestinian situation. In the 1990s, Clinton went with Arafat, and I forget who the prime minister was. They had 98% of what they wanted. 98%. And Arafat said, I have to make a phone call. He came back and said the deal's off.
Yeah, you know why? Why? And by the way, when you bring that up, I'm glad you did, because Bill Clinton brought that up, weeks ago. And what that shows you is, for all these people out there that cry every day about the lovely, innocent Palestinians, and I'm sorry, for me, it's not a gray issue. It's black and white. There's one side that's been victimized. That's my side, the Israelis. And the Palestinians, they've been the ones blowing up Sparrow's pizzerias, blowing up buses, aiding Hamas October 7th. My opinion. You don't have to say my opinion. They're the least sympathetic people. But the point is, that proved to you when Arafat was given all these opportunities to take land all over Judea and Samaria, which other people call the West Bank. He don't want it. You know why? It's not about the land. It's about killing Jews.
What it is, it's about that overall philosophy. And the other interesting thing, another part of that story, is that in 1994, I went to Jordan, and I spoke to King Hussein, the father, and I did a film there. And I said, I'd like to create a school where the Jews and the Arabs can work together creatively. I says, because the codus of being understanding stories and telling stories with each other, I says, would bring more for the area than all the bullets in the world. And I wrote an article in Breitbart several years ago saying, why isn't the Gaza Strip like Disneyland? And at that time, I said to him in 1994, the King Hussein of Jordan, I says, there's so much Arab money. Put $50 million. They said, because they approached me to teach an acting class in Jordan. I said, I'd like to start a school in this area where Jews and Arabs can work together to creatively to tell stories that share their culture and understand the working and the storytelling can be more important. I said, why isn't the Gaza Strip, with all the money in the Middle East. Why isn't the Gaza Strip like Disneyland? It's a beautiful piece of, they could have made it beautiful. Why? What happened? Now, you talk to people, they blame the Jews. They say, well, Israel will let them do that. That's not true. There's, for some reason, they want to keep the oppressor, and it's part of a Marxist socialist philosophy. They did it in South America. They infiltrated the religions, the Marxists. They did it with Catholicism. Tim Kaine, who ran with Hillary Clinton, went to South America, undermined Reagan with the liberation theology, where the Marxists came into the Catholic Church, and they're still around. They're still around to infiltrate Marxism, communism into society. And the youth today, I don't just blame Mandami. He's a voice. His father was a Marxist communist. His father got his education in America because we paid for it. The Kennedy Foundation and our government helped pay for his father's education. Mandami, who hates America now, or who wants to change America. His father makes $200,000 to $300,000 a year as a teacher in Colombia. He made $10,000 or $15,000 in Africa when he was a teacher. The father, God bless him, soul, and the mother, successful people. And Mandami can blow off the Italian American, the Jews, the Irish, the rest of that community that built this country, built New York City, fell off of those towers when there were less than 100 Muslims in the country at the turn of the 19th century. And my grandparents came from Italy, Naples, and Sicily. And we were taught the 1906, all the people that are crying about victimology. 1906, the New York Times, an article said the Italian was lower and dirtier than the Negro. But you know what? We were never then told, hey, you're victims. No, they said this is America. Speak of the English. This is America. My grandfather enlisted in the U.S. infantry, World War I, critically wounded 3 times. Went back into theater each time, got 3 Purple Hearts and an Oak Leaf cluster. My dad, the day after Pearl Harbor, and all my uncles, World War II, Navy. His ship was torpedoed. He was 3 days in the water on a raft. They did this, and this current generation that is coddled, that has been infiltrated in the universities. The universities are subversive, and they take people from other countries that have Marxist ideologies, give them scholarships, and even in our own country, I've seen it happen in Los Angeles, where very bright kids are picked early on from leftist families, given scholarships to Harvard and Yale and Princeton and other places, to now, furthermore, this dialectical materialism and be able to infiltrate society by appealing to emotions and color. We never felt color. My first film was with Sinatra. I sing the songbook. I just had a big concert in Connecticut, 2,000 people. The songbook, Sinatra was one of the first artists to come out against anti-Semitism and racial bigotry of all kinds, because he understood the Italians, we were spit on. There were 1886 more lynchings of Italian Americans than anyone else in New Orleans in 1886. So I hear this Mandami ignoring Little Italy. When my grandfathers, they came to Harlem off the boats, they had relatives in Little Italy that they stayed with, because those immigrants, you had to stay at a house that somebody had an address for you. You had to have some money. You had to have a physical thing, a certificate of health, and you had to get a job. Today, you come in, and you guys, I did a film. It's look at, after almost 50 years in this business and traveling all over the world, Sid, and seeing the world and understanding the world and reading about certain things. I understand the propaganda, the agitation propaganda, which Mandami throws off with that smile, and the rest of the left does. They accuse us. It's that rules for radical garbage that we all know about, but they don't teach it. They don't teach fairness in the universities. So these kids get scholarships, they go in there, and then they affect their parents. And immigrants come over, some of them are wonderful, hardworking still. But we were taught, speak of the English.
Yep.
We weren't allowed to speak Italian. They spoke it in the house a little bit.
Right.
But learning the English. And the same thing with the Mishpukas, the Jews, the Irish. You know, it was a thing of embrace this country. Love this country.
Yeah, they don't do that. They don't assimilate. They have no interest in doing that. About 30 seconds to go, Robert. I've got I got Norm Coleman. I've got Sean Hannity. I've got Nancy Mace, a whole bunch of others stopping by. Were you serious when you said that you would consider coming back to New York and run for mayor?
Absolutely. If it made sense. Look, and I understand the demographic over there is crazy, but I believe that if people got educated, and you have to realize that there are people there that have homes, that have rents, that there are people living in their homes, and they don't have to pay the rent. They don't have to pay the rent. People, these landlords, they're not slumlords. I was in buildings that were beautiful, and people weren't paying the rent, and they were just letting it go. And the courts, the corrupt courts of New York City, just pass it down the thing. And then Dammy wants this free and that free and the other thing free. No, look, I believe in help. You need help. You need assistance. But you need to pull yourself up, and people hate hearing that. I'm sorry to take the time. Thank you for the opportunity.
No, before I let you run, just so you know, my dear friend, the great actor and comedian Michael Rappaport, he'll be in these studios tomorrow. He has also talked about running for mayor. But you do know that because he's been outspoken pro-Israel like you are, Robert Davi, and anti-Mamdani, that he can't really find an acting job these days. Aren't you worried that if you, in fact, do something like this, that you, too, will be branded a traitor by your friends in Hollywood?
Look, I did that because I supported Trump. I was the first person who ran on Breitbart. The day he came down the escalator, I said he was going to win and why. Because I've written for Andrew Breitbart was my friend. I've written for him since 2009. I talked about immigration in 2010. I met McConnell. Let's do something about immigration now. And look at my writings on Breitbart, Robert Davi, author Breitbart, I've hit every hot button, Sid, that you can imagine. When Obama renamed Mount McKinley, I says, this is the beginning of statues coming down. This is the beginning of our history being more erased.
Yep.
And it was right. And a couple of years later, what I said in that article happened. So anyway, I was a Trump supporter when Ben Shapiro hated him. Everybody hated him. Mark Levin didn't like him.
That's true.
There were guys. Yes,
I didn't like him. I voted against him in 2016. I voted for Hillary Clinton. Now he loves me. So
there you go. Well, I said he was going to win, and why? The day he came down the escalator, and a lot of my Hollywood friends, even the conservatives, were laughing at me. I said, and then every time they counted Trump out, I wrote another article, why they're wrong, and I turned out to be correct on this because you feel the nation when you.
Yep.
I'm just a working class guy. My dad worked 3 jobs, Sid. He worked 3 jobs. I didn't have no silver spoon. I got scholarships. I worked my butt off. I didn't know anyone in the business. Nothing to start. I had a dream. That was it. And the dream, my grandparents brought us here to America to have that dream, and you can have it. But you got to work for it and love it and embrace the country. Yes, there are problems, but love the country. And then Dammy's got to stop his nonsense to New York. New York is a great city. I remember before Rudy Giuliani was there, Sid, you couldn't walk on Broadway. I did stuff on Broadway. Women were being held up at gunpoint.
Yep.
The crime, the disrespectful police. Giuliani comes in, cleans up New York City. And I got to say, it's not going to be a popular thing. But when the mobs were on the streets were safer.
Totally true.
Because it was a place you could go.
Totally
now
true.
The police, right? The police, they've been stapled. Their hands have been stapled. Their power's been deballed.
Right.
By people like Mendami.
That's why I ended my video on Friday, which again went viral. Not as viral as yours, because yours was amazing. But I ended it with, quote, where's the mafia when we need them? Robert Davi, you're brilliant. You're great. And I love you. And keep coming back on this show because you're really smart, Robert Davi. Thank you so much.
God bless you, Sid.
God bless you. The great actor Robert Davi, who's clearly a brilliant man on top of his great acting. Robert Davi, right here on Sid and Friends in the Morning.
Sid and Friends in the Morning on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
BB wanted to call in, share his memories of Lindsey Graham. But that specific question, I asked him about the mayor, Mamdani. I said, are you afraid that when you come here in September that Mamdani will arrest you? Because that's what Mamdani, that idiot, even though he can't do it, that's what he keeps threatening to do. And you heard BB's first 3 words. No, I'm not. I'm not afraid he's going to arrest me. And the truth is he's a guy that is all about destroying America, hating Israel. He said all the things we know, and day after day and week after week, Mamdani actually finds a way to make you hate him even more. which is impossible for me because I've hated his guts from day one. Hated his guts. And I make no bones about it. I'm not one of these New Yorkers. He won fair and square. Give him a chance. F him. F him. F his father. F his disgusting, vile, wretched wife. F all of them. So a big thanks to Israeli Prime Minister Bibi Netanyahu for calling in this morning. He was really great, really great. Let me take a break. When I get back, this next guest was about as close to Lindsey as anybody, right there with Ainsley Earhart, who joined me earlier this morning, and Sean Hannity, who's coming up next. It's my first cousin, Norm Coleman, who I love desperately. And he, of course, along with Matt Brooks, they run the RJC, the Republican Jewish Coalition. They put out a very, very nice statement about Lindsey yesterday. But the few times I've had Lindsey on this show in the past, I went through Norm, my cousin Norm. I know he's devastated this morning, and I appreciate him making some time for us. So we'll take a quick break and come back with cousin Norm.
Sid and Friends in the morning on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Okay, as I just mentioned, my cousin Norm Coleman, very, very close with Lindsey, as close as anybody. Tough morning for Norm, but kind enough to hop on with me right now. Norm, I love you, and I'm very, very sorry for your loss.
Thank you, Sid, and tough day yesterday. But I'm so glad that you had Bibi on. There wasn't a stronger supporter in the United States, and if you think back in the history of Israel, the strongest was I tried to be one of them, but these guys, Lindsey had seniority. We got elected together in 2002, so I've known him literally since we both were elected, class of 2002. Saxby Chambliss was in that class. By the way, Conan was is in that class. So Lindsey would have been the last man standing. But Israel didn't have a better friend in the United States Senate than Lindsey Graham. And so for Bibi to call, and I thought that was really special. I thought it was important. I am certainly uplifted by the kind of tributes to Senator Graham that he so richly deserved.
Yeah, they're everywhere. Hannity is coming up after you, and Sean was also very, very close with Lindsey as his fiancée. She was on earlier. Ainsley Earhart, also very, very close. Trump, very, very close. Trey Gowdy, you were all the guys that was so close with Lindsey. And, yesterday when he got back, there was a lot of talk out there, and I got involved, but I took it down from my social media, about how a seemingly healthy 71-year-old man who spent time in Ukraine, just 5 days before that, the IRGC was saying, we're going to kill him. And then Iran... Yeah, and then Iran took credit.
Just a quick story, and I'm glad that was, we're past that. We think we know the cause, but I'll just tell you a quick story. When I, in 2005, I chaired the Western Hemisphere Subcommittee. I went to Cuba. I met with Oswaldo Paya, a leader of the Varela movement, a anti-Castro movement within Cuba. And in his house, it was him. It was a labor leader. Had in prison about 70 people a couple of months before. And then this woman who's the head of Blancos, Women in White, they protested Castro every Sunday after Mass wearing white. Okay? Within 6 months of my meeting with them, 2 of the 3 were dead. Okay, so they were dead. One died of an infection. Well, she got nicked during a march. Well, they poisoned her. Classic Russian. The other died in an auto accident. And so I understand, but apparently, and I never knew he had any heart issues. But listen, bottom line is that did folks want him dead? Yeah, they want him dead because he was a champion of freedom. Anyone who championed freedom lost a hero, lost a champion the other day when Lindsey passed on. He was, he took on the Russians, he took on the Iranians, he took on all the bad guys. He was out there to say, hey, America is the strongest nation on earth. We are not going to let tyrants and thugs kind of dictate for us. And again, getting back to Israel, they couldn't have had a better friend than Senator Lindsey Graham.
No. I mean, Bibi was, even this morning, he was on with me an hour ago. He was still shook up. Yesterday, he was really shook up over Lindsey's death. But what I knew about Lindsey, and you knew him again better than almost anyone, was that while he was a fervent Republican, a strong Republican leader in the Senate, I'm nervous now. I'm really nervous about South Carolina, but regardless of the politics, while he was a fervent Republican senator, he was a type of guy that he'll chew you up like he did during the Brett Kavanaugh hearing, chewed him up, but he was also one of the few Republican senators who had no issue going to the other side of the aisle and actually talking to some of these terrible people.
Sid, he took multiple trips to Israel and Saudi,
with Blumenthal. Okay, who gets along with Blumenthal?
No
Nobody.
one.
Nobody.
Yeah.
No one gets along. No one gets along with Blumenthal. But Lindsey, they did a number, and I would talk to him afterwards. And so he was carrying. He was doing the shuttle diplomacy. I did a couple of trips with him when we went to Riyadh and went to Jerusalem to kind of. He was carrying the torch, the flame of Israel-Saudi integration. He believed if that would happen, that would be transformative. It would transform the Middle East. It would put Iran in a corner, and the Arab world would then kind of work with Israel, and it'd be a new dawn, a new day. And he was doing shuttle diplomacy, but he took Blumenthal with him on a number of trips. And again, so no one gets along with Blumenthal, but Lindsey Graham did, and I think it's a testament to him focusing on he wanted to get something done. He was going to work with whoever he needed to work with to get that done, and he was enormously successful at it.
And Dick Blumenthal, of course, stolen valor. He's the guy in Connecticut that said he served, he never served. And believe it or not, Lindsey Graham, on Friday, the day before he died, I played the audio this morning. He spoke in Ukraine. He talked about more sanctions on the Russians. And when I get back to Washington, D.C., we're going to make this work. He said, I feel better than ever, closer to peace than at any point in the last 5 years. And he actually said, Norm Coleman, when I get back to Washington, D.C., I'm going to talk to Dick Blumenthal. He said it the day before he died.
No. I mean, we had a number of conversations where he had a relationship there. He worked it, and it was important. In the end, and by the way, we're watching Israel kind of getting marginalized. Democrats can't support Israel. You can't be a Democrat and support Israel today if you want to be moving the Democrat Party. So he developed relations with folks on the other side of the aisle who was standing with him, standing with Israel. And again, these are tough times for the Jewish state. But Lindsey Graham was there doing what he needed to do to make sure that our best ally, our strongest ally, had the strength to be able to move forward. Again, having Bibi on was a testament to somebody that certainly Israelis recognized was a great friend and a great leader.
Thank you. I will send you that Bibi conversation in the next couple of minutes. The other thing about Lindsey, too, is what a great story. I was talking to Ainsley Earhart this morning, and she said people said he never got married. And she said, oh, no. He got married, all right. He married politics. He married freedom. He married America. That's what he married. And then the story about him taking care of his sister after his mother and father both died at young ages. What a beautiful story, Norm.
I mean, the story of his life is the story of the American dream. Growing up in the back of his parents ran a bar and a pool hall. He grew up in like 1 or 2 rooms and living behind it, and rose to be one of the greatest members of the United States Senate. Chaired the Budget Committee, did reconciliation. He was at the center. If you look at the issues on foreign policy in the last 20 years, Lindsey Graham was at the center of all of those. And by the way, I have to say that he had an incredible sense of humor. He's a funny guy. Yeah. I was with him in the desert with the Crown Prince. He says, Crown Prince, how do you get to be Crown Prince? The Crown Prince proceeded to explain how he actually gets elected by the royal. Lindsey just had a sense that you didn't know whether he was dealing with crown princes, with presidents, with whatever it was. He just had this incredible sense of humor, and really, if you were with him, you had a laugh. At some point in time, you were laughing at something. Even calling self-defacing. Even with Trump, I get along with Trump. I like Trump. He likes Trump. And he was just pretty extraordinary.
He was.
We lost a great one the other day. Tragic, unfathomable, difficult to comprehend. But on the other hand, you can reflect on things that he's done and who he is, and that will put a smile on your face.
This is my cousin, the amazing Norman Coleman, who was very, very close with Lindsey Graham. And Bibi actually made it a point on this show less than an hour ago to talk about Lindsey Graham's sense of humor. Well, how about that? Everybody knows about it. Well, look, I'd be remiss to let you go. You are a New York boy. I know you spent a lot of the last many years between Iowa and Minnesota and Florida and Washington, D.C., but you're a Brooklyn boy, and when you go up to Bethel Woods, like we did 2 weeks ago, Danielle and I and the kids, to see the Doobie Brothers in Santana, that movie, you're in it. You are Brooklyn through and through, Norm Coleman. So
I was at Woodstock, and I did inhale. I remember about Bill Clinton, but when I was at Woodstock, I did inhale, but I made it out to the United States Center. By the way, I'll be coming back to New York to watch the final of the World Cup.
Oh, good.
I was in Miami and I was in Boston. I didn't grow up with soccer, but I got to tell you, it's a spectacle. It is a spectacle. It's amazing, and this will be a big event. So some bright things on the horizon after a very tough week.
No, that's great. Yeah, be at the finals. I know you were there because I got a text from Andrew Giuliani. He goes, "I'm sitting with a guy who keeps talking smack about you. I'm going to put him on the phone." And it was you. You were sitting there with Andrew Giuliani.
By the way, Andrew Giuliani, he leads the White House task force on the World Cup. So you have the president's the chairman, J.D. Vance the vice chair, every cabinet secretary, Hegseth is on it, Mullen is on it. They're all on it. He is phenomenal. He is smart. He's collaborative. Working with him was a joy. This has been a great success, and he should get a lot of credit for an extraordinary young man with great talent, and it's been a joy to work with him. He's done a great job. It's been a great event. Hopefully we'll get through only a couple more games.
Yep.
But America hasn't had such good publicity around the world since we won World War II.
Sure. You're right. You're right. I got to tell you, though, I one of these games I can't stand because I hate both countries because they hate the Jews like the Democrats. France and Spain. Who the hell do you root for there? Who?
Yeah, but better France than Morocco, right?
That's true. I guess they are. But I was getting to the point that you're a Brooklyn boy because I have spent the last couple of months like nobody else. You know that, Norm. Nobody beats up Mamdani like I do. Nobody. And, last week he pulled the nonsense. He left off Little Italy, not just Little Italy, but he left off Greek neighborhoods and German neighborhoods and Jewish neighborhoods and Irish neighborhoods in this ridiculous immigration enclave map. Now, he's changed it because he probably got a call from the mob. They're coming to get him. But have you ever in your
There's
long...
no Little Italy anymore? There's no Mulberry. There's no Little Italy? What?
Well, now he's putting it back, right. But have you ever seen anybody like this in your long political career?
No, I haven't, but the sad thing is it's a harbinger of things to come in the Democrat Party. You saw it then in the congressional elections in Brooklyn. You've seen other parts of the country. Democrat Party has moved way to the left. The communists, I'm sorry, and it's stunning. But if it was just an isolated deal, it'd be one thing. But it's a shame. And I've said this a number of times in your show. I'm reminded of what I don't want to say this, my friends in New York, but what Ed Koch once said when he lost an election. The people have spoken. They deserve to be punished. How you got him elected, I don't know, but there's a price to be paid. And unfortunately, I think that's a hobby. That's where the strength in the Democratic Party. Chuck Schumer's days are over. They're over. He's done. He's a dead man walking. And the far left controls everything. The so-called center will play to the far left, but it's not good news for us, for those who love America, who care about the security of our country, who believe in free enterprise, who believe in the American spirit, who believe in the American dream. This is a disgrace. It's a tragedy, but that's what you got representing the city of New York. Again, born and bred in Brooklyn. I can take the boy out of Brooklyn. You can't take the boy out of it, but you can't Brooklyn out of the boy.
No.
It's still in my heart.
I know it is, because I know that when you were standing next to me many years ago in the NFC Championship game, Kerry Collins and the Giants taking on Dante Culpepper and the Vikings, you were secretly rooting for the Giants.
yeah, 44-0. Was that the score?
Yes,
that one?
yes.
Thanks for reminding me. Okay.
The game's over. He goes, listen, I still love these guys. Jim Cabbage, I used to love all those guys.
Andy Robustelli, Kyle Rhodes, Y.A. Tittle, come on. Giants
they were great. Hey, listen, it's great. Thank you for calling in today. I know it's a very, very tough day for you. How much Lindsey loved you and how much you loved him. So thank you for calling in. You're a special person. You're my cousin. I love you anyway, but you're a special guy.
Thank you for celebrating the legacy of a great man. Really much appreciated.
You got it, Norm. God bless you. All right. I love you. See you. That's my first cousin, Norman Coleman, former senator from the great state of Minnesota. Also spent 8 years as a mayor of St. Paul. My first cousin, the oldest of 8 children from my Aunt Beverly. She's gone. My Uncle Norman, war hero, he's gone. But what a terrific kid. Hopefully his sisters, Candy, Shannon, and Margie, are listening right now. We'll take a break when we get back.
Sid and Friends in the morning on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
This is a former police commissioner, Bernard Carrick, who, of course, was part of our team, and thank God he was back in 2001. Thank God we had that team, Giuliani, Carrick, Pataki, Esposito, all those guys. You know, I remember the next day, Bernie, the New York Post on September the 12th. I'll never forget it. I was having breakfast with Danielle, and we were just all so depressed and sad and trying to figure out who died and who didn't. And the cover of the Post was a picture of people jumping out of the building. That was the actual cover of the Post. September the 12th, and everybody I speak to that was there, and you were there, told me that of all the horrific things they witnessed that day, that the thump, the actual thump, when the body hit the ground, was the worst part of that day. Do you attest to that?
You know what, Sid? Yes. It was when we got down to Vesey Street, the cops stopped my vehicle. They wouldn't let us turn on to Vesey. They said people were jumping, and I had no idea what they were talking about. And I got out of my car. I walked to the corner, and you could see this debris coming off the side of the building. As that debris got closer to the ground, you realized it wasn't debris, it was people.
Oh.
And some were hitting the ground, and there were also people that were hitting the overhang, the awnings of the tower. When they hit those awnings, they sounded like explosions. Sometimes you hear people say, the towers were blown up, you can hear the bombs. Well, that's what a body sounds like at 10 floors down when they're jumping from the top of the building and they're hitting that awning. That's what it sounds like.
That was the former great police commissioner, my friend, God rest his soul, Bernard Kerik, who happened to be the police commissioner that day with Rudy and Pataki and Esposito, that whole crew. So that is your 9/11 sound for the day, and we will do it leading up to the actual date. But I'm really excited about getting this guy on. He was amazing on Fox News yesterday. His fiancée, Ainsley, joined us, over 3 hours ago this morning. She was terrific. He's the man. He's the king of it all, the great Sean Hannity, whether it's Fox News TV or radio, or he's got his podcast doing great, too. I just love this guy. Sean Hannity. Sean, good morning, buddy. How are you?
Sid, how do you really feel about Mamdani? I didn't quite get your real sentiment. Marxist, Zoran, Marxist, Tommy Mamdani.
Yeah.
By the way, you left South Florida for that.
I know.
Good luck.
I know.
By the way, your entire station needs to move down here and broadcast from here, the free state of Florida.
No, you're right. Believe me, you say it to me every time. Rick Scott says it to me every time. I know how bad it is, but listen, someone's got to stay and fight, Sean, so at least for now, I'm going to do that. But listen, I'm not that far behind.
It was, I would say, at the top of every hour for years, the greatest city in the world. And it was. But it will never be if they continue down this radical road. The state is going to hell in a handbasket. Let me give you an example about Mamdani. All right, so federal death tax, 40%. New York State death tax, 10%. By the way, Florida's 0. And then Mamdani wants 50% of a death tax. Okay, put it all together. It's simple math, 40, 10, 50, another 50. And he wants to lower the threshold from $7.5 million. Okay, everybody in New York knows it's $750,000. Tell me what you can buy in terms of owning, a studio apartment in New York for $750,000. Can you get one even?
Not much. No. No,
not much.
No,
you're gonna get a closet.
Yeah,
and then that would be what you'd be able to freely, give to your children, grandchildren, people that you love, charity, whatever, because the government would take 100% of the rest of the money above $750,000. Now, I'm going to tell you two other things you need to watch for. The wealth tax that took place in Seattle, and that Gavin, now it's on the ballot in California, that would be retroactive to January 1 of this year, which has chased out Mark Zuckerberg. You know where Zuckerberg now lives? Florida.
Yep.
You know where two of the co-founders of Google live? Florida. You know where Elon Musk now lives? Austin, Texas. These people are wealthy. I don't know people that were born with a silver spoon in their mouth. I just don't. Everybody that I know that's ever been successful got there one way, the old-fashioned way. They worked really hard, and they figured out whatever talent God gave them, and they produced goods or services that people wanted, needed, or desired. Period. End of sentence. You've been successful because you work hard. You're still not paid enough, but that's a different story. And why so much silence on this line? I hear nothing but silence.
No. We're about to do a brand new deal here. I'm very excited about it. So very close
okay.
this week.
I'm kidding. Well, now you just broke news. I love that.
See?
Okay, so, but, look, I really mean this when I say it. I really, care about all of my friends in New York that are there. Many of them have also followed me, and they've either come to Florida, or they're going to the Carolinas, or they're going to Tennessee, or they're going to Texas. And I just hate the fact that a wealth tax, and here's the other thing that'll follow that. It'll be an exit tax. What is an exit tax? You live in New York, you're a New York resident, and you decide to leave because you can't take it anymore, then they're going to claim they have a right to a percentage of your income and the ability to tax your income for the next 10 years because whatever you built in your life, even though Obama said you never built that, that they have a right to still continue to tax you even though you get no benefits from that state at all whatsoever. And if you think I'm nuts, look it up because it's been proposed in states like California, and it's going to go nationwide. Mark my words.
What
how
a
are
mess.
you doing?
That's a mess. Otherwise, I was doing okay, not great. I'm sad about the Lindsey Graham news, but, it's a mess. See, here's the problem, Sean, and then we want to get to Lindsey Graham, obviously, but when people like you leave, okay, and brilliant guy, big-time successful guy, making a lot of money, when you leave and droves follow, how do we beat somebody like Mamdani when he runs? It feels like every decent Republican, every decent conservative now lives in Florida or Tennessee or the Carolinas or Texas. How do you beat these guys, these lowlives in these states?
The answer is it's hard. And like, for example, I'm a huge Bruce Blakeman fan and fully endorse him to be your next governor. And by the way, the fact that the polls right now, there was a poll that came out a couple of weeks ago. I think it was, a 4 or 6 point race. The fact that this is a race tells you how bad that the state has deteriorated. Now, Nassau County, Suffolk County, Westchester County, upstate New York, it's all going red. If you look at a map at how the state of New York votes, it's almost all red. Then you got this little island where you are right now. It's called Manhattan. Then you have, surrounding boroughs known as the 5 boroughs. Check the WABC traffic. It's, everything's blocked. You're screwed for the next hour and a half.
Yep.
More details coming up in 10 minutes. This is sponsored by, Geico Insurance, whatever.
Right.
But all of that, it's the same traffic report every second of every morning, right? Alternate side of the street parking is suspended today, right?
That's right.
But those 5 boroughs, here's your problem. You're looking at the people where it's 10-1 or 9-1, Democrat to Republican.
Well, really 4 out of 5. Staten Island is still pretty good. But yes, the other 4 are terrible.
Staten Island is one little, saving grace.
That's
and it's part of, it's part of the equation, but it's still not all.
No.
Not Nassau County.
No, it's a very small pimple in an acne problem. How about that?
Oh, well, very great example. Thank you. Thanks for sharing your problems with us. We appreciate it. More info than I wanted. But
I know. But you're right. It's a mess. The boroughs are a mess. And, you hope the rest of the state will eventually catch up. But I just don't know. But here's what I do know. I really had no idea. I should know this, but I didn't. How close you were to Graham before I watched you, heard you on Fox News yesterday. Then Ainsley came on about 3 hours ago. She said, Sid, I got to tell you, my fiance spoke to him almost every day, sometimes a couple of times a day. So I guess she said that Tim Scott was the one who sent you a text at about 3:30 on Sunday morning. But I think my audience will be really happy to hear just how close you were with Lindsey Graham, as close as Trump, Gowdy, anybody.
Well, for my friend Tim Scott, and he is a dear friend, to call me at 3:30 in the morning. I woke up about 4:30, and I looked at my phone, and I'm like, the first thing I saw is he called. Then I opened my phone, and probably I had 15 texts. I'm like, oh no. And then I learned immediately what had happened. But the first thought was, all right, he either got drunk, which is something he never would do. Right. He's a very strong Christian. Yeah. Or he butt dialed me, or something horrible happened, and I was leaning towards the third already. Nothing ever good happens when you get a call at 3 in the morning, so it just doesn't. Nope. And, Lindsey was a dear friend. And what really bothers me is there are so many that did not understand him. They thought he was a warmonger and, he just wanted to kill people left, right, and sideways. That was not him at all. But he didn't have blinders on in life. He understood that there is evil in this world. He understood that, evil, in the case of radical Islamists, want to destroy us. The president, everybody I know that had the intelligence leading up to Epic Fury and before that Midnight Hammer, they all tell me the same thing. The president had no choice. He had to act. When Steve Witkoff came on my radio show, my TV show, and said definitively that they had 460 kilograms of 60% enriched uranium, commonly referred to as the nuclear dust, and to go from 60% enrichment to 90%, which is weapons grade, is about a 12-day process or less.
Wow.
And that they were making efforts to get the remaining 60% enriched uranium immediately after Midnight Hammer was very problematic. The president had to deal with it. The fact that Lindsey knew the number one state sponsor of terror, he had enough moral clarity to want to prevent that from ever happening. If you think whatever problems we may be facing with the Strait of Hormuz right now is bad, imagine a nuclear-armed Iran. They would not only control the strait, but they'd have hegemony in the entire region. And that was what united Israel and all of the other nations within the Middle East, is they all were dead set against that ever happening. So the president wasn't doing this for Israel. The entire region was celebrating when, in fact, Midnight Hammer and Epic Fury took place.
Yep.
But, we've got a hiccup here, and the hiccup is you've got one group of leadership that does want a deal, and then you've got these hardliners, former loyalists to the former Ayatollah and Supreme Leader, Ali Khamenei. By the way, they froze that guy for how long and then had a funeral? I mean,
was he frozen like Walt Disney? Is that right?
I have no earthly idea, Sid. I wish I could tell you, but it was bizarre. And, I mean, I hate to tell you, but look at the level of anti-Semitism in your state. Look at Mamdani, his wife after October 7th and things that she, checked off on social media. I mean, it is repulsive to me. Look at what happened at Columbia, other schools. The rise of anti-Semitism has gone rampant in the city. It's happening on college campuses, the halls of Congress. It's growing worldwide, nationwide. It is scary at this point.
Very.
And meanwhile,
and I'm in the city. I mean, like I say, meanwhile, you got Lindsey Graham, who's out there. I just had Bibi Netanyahu on this show an hour ago, maybe two.
Yeah.
And he was saying that we lost a great fighter. He made it about America first because that's what the anti-Semites love to do. Oh, you're Israel first. No, I'm not. I'm America first. I'm Trump first, but I'm Israel second. And Israel, to me, is right there. It's like a horse race. It's like 1-1-A. And Bibi realizes what Lindsey meant to the state of Israel because, oh, my God, Lindsey Graham, your great buddy Sean Hannity, actually had the balls to defend Ukraine and Israel. What a terrible person.
And here's the thing. What Lindsey's real goal was, and I'm a huge fan of Bibi. I've known him for 30 years. He has done a phenomenal job protecting his country. look, you extrapolate out Israel's population and compare it to ours. October 7th, 2023, you talked about this year being the 25th anniversary of 9/11. I can't believe it's 25 years ago.
I know.
I had syndicated my radio show the day before.
Yeah.
I will never celebrate the anniversary of that show because I can't, because I know what happened the next day.
Although you have to admit that was kind of when you became, and deservedly so, because I think you're magnificent. I don't just say that to patronize you. I love you. But that's when you really became the megastar you are today. You did a phenomenal job.
2,977 of our dear friends, and fellow New Yorkers died that day. And then many more thereafter from 9/11 related illness, which, by the way, people need to know is very, very real. And, they did not mask up the people at Ground Zero in the rescue recovery efforts, the cleaning up efforts. And a lot of people are dying from 9/11 related cancers, a lot of people.
Still.
And, but the equivalent in Israel is October 7th for them. They have less than 9 million people in Israel. That's it. I mean, this little country has had to defend itself, its entire existence, going back throughout history. Never mind the 1948, UN partition plan and forward, and the day after, and Ben Gurion reaching out the hand of neighborliness, only to be, attacked the very next day. And all of these neighbors were hostile towards the newly established state, but they always found a way to survive. And Bibi's always had this moral clarity. Yeah, they want to destroy Israel, but they're not just chanting death to Israel. They're chanting death to America. And let me say one other thing on this religious aspect. As a Christian, as a believer in Jesus Christ, Sid, my Lord and Savior, happened to be Jewish.
True.
His apostles were all Jewish. America was founded, if you read our framers and founders, on Judeo-Christian principles. All of our framers and founders, they all referenced it, to one extent or another. And it became, this one incredible document. We just celebrated the 250th anniversary, our declaration, endowed, what makes us different, endowed by our Creator. Where this hatred has come from, I think, the greatest ally, most reliable ally we've ever had, and especially under the leadership of Bibi, I don't know. I can't stand it. And the conspiracy theories and the hatred. Well, by the way, where are all those people at Columbia? Where are all those people, at Gracie Mansion, whatever you call them, the home of your buddy Mamdani? Where are all those people that were protesting, what happened, Israel defending itself? That's 40,000 dead Americans in a day if that happened in America based on the size of our population.
That's right. And we wouldn't sit idly by. President Trump, our dear friend, would make sure that somebody...
What would you want your government to do if we lost 40,000 Americans
Exactly what Bibi has done. How about that? And that's what Trump would do. He put a hurting on somebody who did that. Before I let you go here, the last question, and you're great, Sean. Thank you. This is amazing. The last question I asked Ainsley this morning was, if God allowed you a 60-second visit to heaven this morning just to say something to your friend Lindsey Graham, what would you say? And she said, it's funny, Sean and I talked about this last night. And she said, I'd start with, I'm so mad at you. If you didn't feel well, why don't you go to the doctor? Why don't you tell somebody? Let me ask you the same question, Sean. What would you say to your dear friend who loved you so much and you loved him, Lindsey Graham, this morning?
Look, I know too much now about stuff about his health that he ignored, that as a friend of his, that, the fact that he didn't bring that up to me hurts a little bit. I'm being very blunt here. And I would just say, welcome home, good and faithful servant. I mean, his dream said, and I didn't finish this thought, his dream was not war. His dream was not death. I wish there was no evil in the world. I wish there was no radical Islamist in the world. But I can't deal with the world that I wish for. I have to deal with the world and the hand that we're dealt. We were dealt a hand on 9/11. You played Bernie Kerik at the beginning of the segment, a dear friend of mine too, and he was a hero along with Mayor Giuliani on that day. and how soon people forget. They nearly lost their lives that day. And, they showed leadership on a scale that, was needed and brought a city together. And George Bush coming to New York brought a country together and throwing out the first pitch at Yankee Stadium. All of that happened. And, I just think that we are all on God's time, all of us. And, and it's the role of us that know and understand and have the moral clarity and the understanding that evil exists. I wish it didn't. That has to be eradicated when necessary. But what I love about the Trump doctrine is he doesn't believe in forever war. He wants to get the job done, take out ISIS the way he did, take out Soleimani and Baghdadi the way he did, and in this case, stop Iran from having nuclear weapons, keep the strait open, and go home. He does not want boots on the ground. What Israel decides to do is going to be up to Israel. I'll put it that way. And, I think that Bibi will do what is in his country's best interest. Lindsey Graham's great hope was that, once this situation was resolved, that every country in the Middle East would join either the Abraham Accords or Abraham Accords Plus, and that we'd have a path to peace in a region that has known nothing but war forever. And that was his real goal. His real goal was not to have war. His real goal was a lasting peace. That was his real goal.
You are a generational talent, Sean Hannity, but more importantly, you're a superb person.
No, I'm a loudmouth. I get paid for talking.
You're great. I love you. I'm so happy you did this.
Listen, Sid, I love our country. I love my friends in New York. I kid around about it a lot on my show. The free state of Florida, because New York chases you wherever you go. I can't even visit New York because they'll want to, track me down and tax me for a day.
That's true.
I mean, that's how desperate they are for money.
I know.
But, they chase everybody. Look at what they did to Ken Griffin. Ken Griffin, Mamdani doxes the guy.
I know.
Now, this is a billionaire that already has a very high risk assessment based on his wealth. Number one, why would you dox a guy that owns $200+ million, penthouse apartment that pays massive amount of taxes on it, that had planned to spend $6 billion investing in New York City? And what is Ken Griffin's response? See ya. He's now spending that money in Florida.
I don't blame him.
There are more. Every Wall Street firm is in Florida. You now have a stock exchange in Texas. There are more Morgan Chase employees down in Texas than there are in Florida, than there are in New York. Every private equity company, every big bank, every investment firm, they're all down in South Florida. Sid, Wall Street South is bigger than Wall Street.
Amazing. It's true. No, I know. I'll be down next month. So I'll reach out. Sean,
look what they're trying to do to your boss.
I know.
God.
I know.
And by the way, the margin in a grocery store is 2%.
Yeah.
It's not even like there's this massive markup. There's not.
Nothing. No, there's nothing. I know. And he stays in the game. Katzmatidis, who's a great guy. But, boy, they are making it difficult.
We'll find out how great when your deal's signed. Then call me back.
All right, Sean. I love you. Thank you. Amazing job today, Sean Hannity. Thank you. Thank you.
I love you, Sid.
I love you, too. The great Sean Hannity right here on Sid and Friends in the Morning. We'll take a short break. We'll still have more to do. I believe that Kilmeade's off today. And I know my friend is filling in. I forgot. Oh, Mary Walters. Is that right, Mary Walters?
No S, Mary Walters.
Mary Walters. I saw her at the Barrett Media thing. She's filling in. We'll come back on Sid and Friends in the Morning.
Sid and Friends in the Morning on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
That relationship, Bibi, Graham, and Israel, was beautiful. So with that said, I am honored. I really am. I'm so happy to have this here. Here is the amazing Prime Minister of Israel, a man I call a friend, Bibi Netanyahu. Mr. Prime Minister, good morning. How are you?
Good morning, Sid. I'm in tatters, actually. I'm shocked. Nobody expected that. Lindsey Graham was a great American patriot, a great friend of Israel, and a great personal friend of mine. And he had such vitality, such energy, that to hear that his life was cut short in one fell swoop is a great shock. In fact, we were talking a few days before, as we did all the time, about how to advance security, how to win the war against Iran, finish the remnants, and then move on to a broader peace, which he very much believed in and devoted his life to. So it's a great shock and a great loss for America, a great loss for Israel, a great loss for our great alliance.
His senior policy advisor was on this show last Thursday, Ophir Falk, Dr. Falk, last night. And David Menzer checks in every now and then. And I'd seen Bibi do a bunch of shows last week on Turkey and Iran. And then I saw Bibi on Fox News yesterday morning with Rachel and Charlie and Griff talking about the death of Lindsey Graham. I know how close Lindsey and Bibi were. So I reached out and I said, look, that war started October 7th of 2023. I've been to Israel 5 times. I see Bibi every time I go, whether it's Yom HaZikaron, which is Israelis' Memorial Day. I spent the day with them in Mount Herzl. Yom HaTzmeot, the very next day, their Independence Day. We spent the night having dinner together at Tilip Alex Winery, which was beautiful. Just 3 weeks ago at jns.org, we spoke the same night, me, Bibi, and Mark Levin. I see him every time I go. I've got 9 million pictures of me and Bibi. Yet, he's never been on this show. He goes on with Dana Bash. She doesn't like him. She's disrespectful every time. I'm not even sure Rachel likes him all that much. And it goes on with, what was the other one? I mean, Newsmax is fine, and Brian Kilmeade's great, but there's no bigger supporter than me. So you could just imagine, I'm on the air. I think Ainsley Earhart was on, Sean Hannity's fiance. They were both on this morning, and both great, Ainsley and Sean. And I got a message on my WhatsApp from Dr. Falk. Bibi wants to call. What number, what time? I'm like, oh, my God. And there it was. He did. He called. So that was him talking about Lindsey Graham. We'll replay the interview tomorrow at a different time. But I also asked the Prime Minister about this threat from radical jihad mayor Mamdani, who Errol Lewis loves, that stupid black racist Errol Lewis, about the threat that when Bibi gets here in September to speak at the UN, that he's going to be arrested. So I said, hey, Bibi, Lewis, be ready for this one. I said, hey, Bibi, are you nervous that when you come to New York in September, that the mayor will actually do what he's been threatening to do and arrest you? Do you have that audio? Maybe you don't have it yet? Okay. Yeah, this is Bibi's answer. Are you nervous that Mamdani's going to arrest you?
No, I'm not. I think he should look at who he's condemning, who he's praising. He's condemning Israel, the one democracy that stands shoulder to shoulder with American values, fights our soldiers, fight shoulder to shoulder with America's valiant soldiers. But, who does he champion? Hamas, that calls openly to massacre every Jew on earth, that conducted that horrible massacre, the worst massacres on Jews since the Holocaust. He basically apologizes and excuses for Iran, the greatest terror regime on earth, that openly calls for the murder of President Trump and other senior officials, and so on. So he's with the terror actors. And I think the problem is, that he doesn't recognize, or he doesn't care, that those who hate the Jews and Israel ultimately hate America. And in fact, I think secretly, he hates.
He does. He hates America, too. And finally, the last one was I asked Bibi, and we talked about a lot of stuff, Turkey, Iran, all of it, but I did, and his re-election bid, but I did ask him about his relationship with President Trump. If you believe the American media, it's strained, it's no good, Trump hates him. Here's Bibi's response. Hey, how you doing with Trump these days?
Well, it's never been better. I mean, one of the things that characterizes our friendship is that we talk openly with each other. Friends don't agree on everything, and sometimes they disagree. And we talk about it openly, in full candor. And I said to him that I think the fact that Erdogan and his administration are talking about the destruction of Israel, the conquest of Jerusalem. That's what one of his ministers said the other day. I look forward to being the governor of Jerusalem. His number 2 guy said Israel has no place among the nations. And the number one guy, Erdogan himself, says that basically he wants to reconstruct the Ottoman, that's the Turkish realm, which included Turkish control not only of Syria and of Jordan and parts of the Arabian Peninsula, but Israel. They ruled this land, and not for better, for worse, for 400 years. So I think that somebody that has that ideology, who harbors Hamas and glorifies these terrorists, I don't think should receive F-35s. I don't think he should get any weapons. He makes his own. He occupies Cyprus, half of Cyprus. He threatens Greece. Somebody who does all that should not have F-35s.
Couldn't agree more. BB, no F-35s for Turkey. Let's take a short break, come back, and we will wrap things up. It's been an amazing Monday.
Thanks for listening to Sid and Friends in the Morning. You can hear Sid and Friends in the Morning weekday mornings at 6. If you like the podcast, share it with your friends and listen anytime at WABCRadio.com and download the WABC Radio app. Hit that subscribe button on all major podcast platforms. Plus, follow WABC on social on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and X. See you next time for a new episode so you never have to wonder.
What the heck is going on here?